Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Boop, there they are. Hey guys, how are you? How are you? Welcome to it's what Thursday? Are we on Wednesday or Thursday? Time's flying weird here. I think we're Wednesday. Yes, that would be Wednesday because Thursday we may have a result of that application to add another publication ban. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys all a quick update on what's going on yesterday, in case you missed yesterday's evening show, so you can understand where we're going into court today with. And we're definitely going to have a nice long conversation with Jaclyne, the wife of Jerry. So this entire episode is going to be with Jaclyne. So it's no Donald, no Granny, no Danielle today. They'll all be back tomorrow. They're all excited to be back tomorrow. Danielle gets to sleep in today, so we'll give her that break. But yeah, we're going to have Jaclyne here today. Quick rundown on how things went yesterday, in case you missed last night's show. The first thing that happened was the Crown presented and argued for a new publication ban. The publication ban that's in effect right now is on the ITOs, and it was put in place by the defense. And this is a new publication ban, completely new, by the Crown itself. They would like to put a publication ban on the contents of this sealed envelope that we're all waiting to hear about, and the decision itself. So they actually were trying to put a publication ban on two things. They didn't want the information coming out in the envelope. It's a good sign for me, I think, if they're doing that. And they didn't want the decision itself to come out. And I found that one pretty interesting because the only decision you wouldn't want the public to know is when it did not go in your favor. You wouldn't care if the one in your favor went out there. So they already, I think, are anticipating a bad decision, or at least covered all their bases to try and stop the public from really knowing this. Hi, Jaclyne. I'll see you in a moment. But what actually happened was there's rules on how you can do this for this publication ban, because you're supposed to let the public know that you intend to or want to or are going to ban something or anything along those lines. So the rules are they need to send an email to the accredited media list. There's a list that the government maintains if you're accredited, and they need to publicly post it in the lobby of the courthouse, this publication ban desire. These are the steps before the judge decides on whether or not they're going to implement that ban. It turns out that the Crown didn't send the email that they said, oh, they have to send it to accredited media, the other side, all members of the other side of the defense, and post it. So those are the three things. They claim the assistant sent it to the media. Don't know, don't care. But the defense said not all of us got it. And they did point out that it was not posted in the lobby. So after an adjournment to go ahead and confirm that, they went downstairs to confirm it's not in the lobby. They came back up, and the judge ruled that we can't do it at this point. And at which point the Crown said, well, we'll try again on Thursday. But that might be a little too late because we're now dealing with the stuff here now. That just reminded me, because the Crown created a delay at the end of the day, or the conditions to create a delay at the end of the day. So maybe they're trying to push to pass Thursday. Interesting. Another part of that the Crown argued, was that there's a single person, I can't remember her name, but it's a her, that responded to the Crown on behalf of media. Okay. It wasn't clear who media was, but I spoke to people after, New York Times, all of those guys. It was represented by this lady originally. Apparently, the Crown says that this person has already pre-approved the publication ban. They're not objecting to it, in other words, is what the legal term is. They didn't object to it. He did then say, but that doesn't represent the will of citizen journalists, podcasters, YouTubers. He said that as I'm sitting in the galley. So I wonder if he recognized my show. But he said that they weren't represented. So at the adjournment, when they were going down to check the lobby, I reached out to the defense and said, hey, I was licensed in Ontario, the law society of Ontario. I am a journalist. I am here to cover, and I would absolutely oppose any publication ban. Vehemently, I would oppose it. And then she said, okay, good. If we need that, we'll let you know. Then it came back from the adjournment. Turned out it wasn't posted. The media ban wasn't approved. And then we continued with the court. I might have to speak Thursday to make sure that we are represented, podcasters, YouTubers, citizen journalists, independent journalists, that we're represented as well. And my representation is going to be no bans. In fact, can you take the other one off? Maybe not. We'll leave that one there, because that was a bad one for the propaganda machine. They were actually holding back the propaganda machine. So we'll leave that one there. But anything the Crown wants to do, I will vehemently oppose that one. So that part failed for the Crown because they were disorganized. They didn't do things right. And frankly, what is it you're trying to hide here? You're even trying to hide a decision that hasn't happened yet. After that, we went into arguments about piercing the corporate veil. This is where we heard the term crime fraud. Crime fraud is a very specific thing, which basically means lying for the purpose of just hurting somebody, like putting them in jail or taking away properties, like fraud beyond the civil definition of it, all the way to the criminal definition. This is a term that was being put around there, the courtroom by the defense about the Crown. And the Crown did not object, did not ask him to change that word, did not do anything along those lines. He just sat there listening to it all. And then those arguments went on for quite a while, and I have to say the defense did, in my opinion, an excellent job laying out the law for the judge, laying out the envelope and the requirements for piercing the client solicitor privilege and other things. And we also found out through the defense at this time that there's additional people in the room that the Crown is not disclosing. So there's a meeting that had RCMP Crown in it. We know that much. That was open in the court. And possibly other people. Through a disclosure request, it was requested who was at that meeting, because if anybody other than the RCMP or the Crown were there, client solicitor privilege vanishes. Gone. It's a non-issue because you can't have client solicitor privilege in the presence of a third party. So if there's a third party in that room, no privilege even then. So the whole argument goes away. Last thing I want to kind of point on here is, why are they trying to continue with a shield? What are they trying to shield? If it's benign, they would absolutely don't care, but they're really pushing hard to protect that information from coming out, put a publication ban on it, on the decision as well. There's a lot of trying to cover up. This is the definition of cover up. Real time right in front of our eyes. We are seeing that happen here. It's not working. The judge did not give them that publication ban, and we're going to continue with court today to hear what happened. Court ended with a surprise affidavit. The Crown provided an affidavit to the defense from a King's counsel within the Crown's office, who basically is getting an affidavit that says, it's my opinion that there's client solicitor privilege here and it shouldn't be pierced. That's like getting a note from your friend saying you're a good guy when you're in the middle of a trial. The court won't accept that. It's not going to go very far. So the defense was given the option to continue and re-argue this affidavit tomorrow after having some time to look at it, or adjourn and then take that up as a first item the next day. The defense decided to adjourn because they wanted to have a good argument to deal with this affidavit and then continue with the rest of the submissions. I think they only had like 5 minutes left or so, is what they were saying. And then we'll hear the Crown give their arguments about the piercing of the corporate veil. Well, they got a lot of extra time. They got the whole night to think about it, and maybe they'll have a decent argument. I don't think it'll be successful, though. And then at the end, we all went home. We did my show, and then Chris Lysick, no, it was Carpert called first. He was in very good spirits. And then Chris Lysick called. He's also in very good spirits. So they're looking forward to today. Now, that's the summary, so I hope that gets you up to speed. So we're going to find out today the result of the arguments against the affidavit. I think it's just going to be thrown away because it's like getting a note from your friend. Like, how is that really evidence? And then we'll get into the Crown's arguments on the piercing of the veil. And hopefully, at the end of that, the judge says, all right, let's open the envelope, pop the champagne, and let's find out what's in here. My impression of the judge, though, is he's definitely not comfortable. He's not comfortable. He does seem to be very uncomfortable. And the only reasons for him to be uncomfortable, in my opinion, is he is planning to go with the guys on the decision. I don't think he'd be uncomfortable if he was going to go against them. I think he's only uncomfortable if he's going against the Crown in his old office, because he used to work there. And that's a very tough decision to pierce that veil. So I think he's uncomfortable because he's wrestling with the fact that he may have to do that. Otherwise, he'd be very comfortable because he already knows where he's going with that. So I think these are all good signs. So tune in a little bit later. I might be on Viva to give him an update as well, but we'll get into the court coverage at the end of the day. 4 o'clock if court ends early, 6 o'clock if court ends on time. We're hoping it ends on time because the more time we're in there, the more we get done. So plan for 6, but be ready for 4. Now, today is going to be a day. It's going to be one of those days. No Granny, no Donald, no Danielle, just Jaclyne. A lot of you don't know this, Okay. But Jaclyne was targeted as well. She had charges and she had things that were put against her, and her life's been horrible, of course. First, her husband's in remand, but also they targeted her as well. So it's the story within the story, or the hell within the hell. There was another part to this that a lot of people don't know. There's absolutely nobody, even alternate media, who's accredited, sitting there covering this part of the story at all. So we're spending the entire morning to talk to Jaclyne and see what she's had to go through being the wife of. This is her only connection, the wife of, and now there's some problems. So without further ado, good morning, Jaclyne. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I got a little bit of rest. It's still short nights around here. Lots of things to get done. Lots of to get through, but those are all good problems to have, because these are people reaching for support and sharing the messages, and it's really, really amplifying quite a bit right now, Jaclyne. So I hope that part of this is working for you.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we definitely wanted to get our story out. I've been saying for the last, I don't know, however long it's been, that I don't just want coverage, I want the right coverage. So, you know, certain outlets not covering the story for myself was just basically just bringing awareness to it, reminding people who they're supporting. I certainly wasn't begging for anyone to come out and cover our story, FYI. So it doesn't really matter to me either way, whether some people showed up or not.
Fair enough.
It's it really doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure my main goal is to protect myself and Jerry. That's the only real job that I have right now. So, you know, that's obviously the forefront of everything that we do.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is going on in the background for myself that mostly I don't bother to talk about, because Jerry is obviously my main focus. He's got a lot more on his plate, and the process for him is a hell of a lot worse, considering that he is incarcerated. But yeah, I've got my own side story. I was arrested on the same day that Jerry was, or sorry, not everybody else, same day as Jerry, after his arrest.
February 14th.
February 14th. Jerry live streamed actually quickly when he first was surrounded by the SWAT team on his way to work. I was not aware of that. Yeah. He went live. He didn't know what else to do. He was scared. He had no idea what the hell was going on. I mean, he had, you know, I don't know exactly how many, but he had several police cars surrounding him with guns on him, treating him like he had just robbed a bank or something. He had no idea what was going on. He was very, you know, shocked and you know, confused about what was happening. He was on his way to work. He was going to a friend of his, rancher guy that lives out in like West Pritis, near his brother, just, south, I guess, and kind of west of his brother. And he was going to finish up a lighting job there that he'd started back in January. Jerry's like Mr., you know, jack of all trades. He actually does have several trades. He's not just a lineman. He actually is a framer by trade as well. And he does cement work as well. He did a lot of cement work in his younger years. And so he's very good at that. And so a friend of his actually hired him to go do a cement job while he had some downtime in between power line work. So he was actually in Vancouver, on Vancouver Island, for most of the convoy, actually, from before it started. Like he left on January 15th, actually. So, and never got back until I think it was like the 6th or 7th or something of February.
Just a week of it.
Yeah. So he was working and, you know, watching everything from the computer, you know, or his phone, just like everybody else was watching it on social media. And so, when we'd just go down for a couple of nights just to, you know, show our support and check everything out. And so we needed to come home. We came home very early on Sunday morning on the 13th, because we were in the middle of getting ready to move. We were looking at places. Our lease was coming up at the end of March. And so we had a house to look at, actually a property to look at on Sunday afternoon. So we were on our way back very early on Sunday. and went and looked at this house and was just going about our business. And Jerry knew he had to go back to work. He actually got a call from his boss, so he was going back power lighting on the Wednesday. Okay. So we decided, hey, baby, I better go finish up this lighting job that I started for my buddy here before I go back to work, so it's not left, unfinished without me knowing exactly when I can get it finished up for him. So Monday morning, he called his buddy and just made sure that there was no cows going to be in the barn, no riding Rita stuff happening that day, so that he could get in and finish up his job. So that's where he was going. We didn't know, actually, I just found out through being in court for the first couple of weeks while I was still able to be there in June, that the police followed us home or something, or dispatched people to come to our house after we got home. And they were watching us. I don't know from where. I mean, they're obviously pretty good incognito. We didn't know it. We live rurally. We're on an acreage. We didn't notice anything funny. I mean, we weren't paying attention. We weren't, we didn't, we wouldn't dream that somebody's watching us like creeps, from a distance. But apparently we learned that they had been surveilling us at our house since we'd gone home, I guess, apparently. And so they were, they were staked out watching this big bad, criminals here would just go about our business, get our house cleaned up, get off to appointments, Jerry getting prepared for work, just a bunch of super exciting stuff. So we found out
mundane life. That's what you were doing. You were and moving to a new house. So you were looking for property.
Yeah, we were just going, looking at houses and just trying to figure out exactly where we wanted to be. And so, I mean, just normal everyday stuff. But what we found out we didn't know was that Jerry's phone was tapped, and so they were listening to his phone calls. And so we learned too that they were listening live. So they say they do live recordings and they pull the information that they need after the fact, but we know just from the conversations that were had with the police and some of the phone calls that they were, questioning us about, that we knew that they didn't have either they weren't working with a person of interest list, or they just made a person of interest list as they saw fit, like they were picking and choosing what they wanted and discarding what didn't fit the narrative, because they sat and listened to Jerry set his day up that day, call his clients, confirm that the barn was available, call his brother, confirm that, he could borrow some tools, and trying to recruit him to come help him to get it done faster because he's a lineman too. So, they listened to him set his day up. They knew where he was going and what he was doing. And so when they arrested him and then they put out the story, which they said that they caught him going south on the number 2 headed towards Coutts, with guns in his vehicle and ready to go wreak havoc. I mean, they lied through the teeth, and they knew that.
That was the RCMP one that they did, right?
Yeah,
the RCMP one you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So they knew that. They knew everything about what he was doing. They heard his whole day. It just didn't work out to their narrative to, include that information, because it's completely contradictory to the story that they put out. So, they actually, in a couple of news articles, there's one with the St. Albert Times, I believe it is, or St. Albert Today. It's a St. Albert's paper, like small local paper. They had kind of retracted, sort of, half-assed corrected themselves to say, oh yeah, no, I guess we no longer can confirm the exact story about where he was going and what he was doing. So we're just
this is after the fact. So after the arrest, after RCMP, they're now changing the story because the real details are coming out, you think? Yeah,
not really changing it, just not sticking by the original, but not giving it an alternative either. Saying, oh, wait a minute, we can't really confirm this, I guess, maybe, sort of. Right? Like they just kind of cast a tiny bit of doubt onto it. And in a small St. Albert Times, how many people sees that, right? Like I just happened, somebody, locally saw it, sent it to me and was like, hey, look at this, right? Because it also contradicted, they were trying to verify what my charges were, this little paper. And they didn't know. They weren't sure. They couldn't remember, couldn't tell if they charged me with just mischief, or maybe there was another charge there for...
Now, were you at the Coutts border crossing at all?
Yeah. We had visited there a couple of times,
Okay, but were
but very
you like
short
captured? You
stints.
weren't
Like,
captured there. Where were you captured?
no
Where were
goodness,
they arrested?
I was arrested in High River at the High River Police Detachment. So
Oh,
Jerry went
you
live on
went there?
Facebook. I went there.
I'm
They
trying
let
to
him
understand where
call me.
mischief could come from. So you weren't at the
Yeah,
protest itself at the time. You
no,
went to the police station
yeah,
to go see what you going up with Jerry, and
yeah.
then that's your charges there.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
let Jerry
wow.
call me from High River. So I saw him go live. I knew what was happening. Of course, I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, okay, this is crazy. I just jumped in my car and started. I knew exactly where he was. He was right in front of Red Deer Lake Meats. So
Yeah.
it was right on the 22X, like
So he
somewhere, like
wasn't on the
almost
two.
directly. No, he wasn't on the two. He's headed west on the 22X. So he was going to Pritis. So Pritis is west of Calgary,
Oh,
which
wow. They got
is,
that detail wrong.
yeah, well, big time. I mean, first of all, we live about 4 hours personally away from Coutts, Milk River area. So like
Can,
we're nowhere
can I
near
just
it to
interrupt for a
begin
second?
with.
What
Yeah.
time was his live? What time did his live go at? Because we'll know that, right?
Yeah, it was well, he did a Facebook live, so I think that it's already deleted. You know, those things auto delete, so it's probably not even there anymore on his Facebook page.
There's ways to
Um,
find out, but roughly, what time do you
yeah.
think that was?
I think it was probably about like 11:30, maybe 10, like somewhere between 10 and noon, somewhere in there.
That's also
Um,
the time of the press conference. So at the
Yeah, it's very well. I mean, they
what happened
probably,
first?
my guess is they grabbed him on the highway and then put the press conference out.
Well, I'm going to suggest that they put the press conference out and grabbed him because they got the highway wrong. So they would have known the correct highway if they grabbed him and then did the press
Well,
conference.
they know
So
the
I'm
correct highway. That this, Jason, this was not a mistake.
no, I'm not saying it's a
This was
mistake. I'm saying they
this,
had the
yeah, like
narrative and then
they
arrested
knew,
him.
yeah, they knew
Yeah,
the
that's what
correct
I'm
highway. They
saying.
knew where they took him. They just, that didn't fit a story well enough. You know, I
Uh,
mean, him
and
heading in
Jaclyne,
the
I'm going to take it
opposite
one step
direction.
further. I'm going to say the narrative came out before the arrest. That's what I'm trying to
Oh
get at.
yeah, yeah, very well, exactly, yeah.
Right? He just
So
didn't
they were
happen to be
trying
on
to,
two.
right. So they were trying to
Okay.
match up him to their narrative for sure.
Correct. So that
Or they already had a narrative and they were like, hey, wait, this guy will come in nicely to this. Let's grab him. It was like a
that's
net,
what I
you know
think.
what I mean? They
That
cast
feels
a
more
big
likely.
net, catch as many fish as they can, and when they reel the net back in, they hope they have some left over, basically, is kind
I
of how
agree
these
with that.
things work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay, now we're on the same page. He's
um
arrested, and then you went to the
yeah,
police station and you got arrested now.
yeah. So I just got in the car and drove towards where he was because I knew where he was. Like I know the area. I mean, we traveled there lots to go, you know, to his brother's house, which is just
Right,
like
right.
maybe 3 or 4 kilometers down over the hill. So I drove there, and when I got there, just as I was pulling up and they were loading his truck on the wrecker, the phone rang and it was Jerry, and he was very panicked and he said, okay, because I called, let me back it up. I called his
Sure.
phone while he was on his live feed because I was like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this live. I can't even communicate. So I called him and he said, get here as fast as you can. I don't know what's going on, and then I can hear him, and he's holding, like, on his live. I can see him talking on his live, and I'm talking to him at the same time, and he's holding his keys. He's got his hands up. He's holding his keys out the window,
To let
like,
them know he's
hey, I'm
cooperating. Yeah.
surrendering. Like, what the
Mhm.
hell, right? And anyway, so I can hear him. I can hear the struggle. Of the him then taking him down as he's getting out of the
I'm
truck.
sorry you heard that.
Which I learned after the fact that they hit him in the face, in the brow with the butt of the gun, as well as in his lower back. They were taunting him, saying, "Are you going to cry about this, you little baby?" Like, just disgusting behavior. So, when I pulled up, it was just one cop car and his truck being loaded on a wrecker. So the phone rang like literally as I was pulling out. So I was just going to get up and say, "Hey, what the hell is going on here? Like, you need to explain to me what's happening." And it was him, and he said, "I'm in High River. I have no idea what's going on. These cops are saying something about attempted murder." He was like, "Get here as fast as you can." I was like, "Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm already almost there." So I didn't even stop. I just did a U-turn, head straight to High River. When I got to High River, there was a policeman behind the counter. at the front, like the foyer, the front desk. So I said, hey, like, listen, you have my husband back there. I need to know what's going on. Like, there's been some crazy accusations, like, please fill me in. And he was like, go sit down. That's not how this works, And I was like, kind of not even really admitting that he was there. And I was like, listen, I know he's here. You let somebody back there already let him call me. So I know he's here. So I will sit and wait. So I sat down and waited. It was probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And then 2 officers walked through the front door, or the back door, I guess, from the foyer, called me by name, and then told me I was under arrest. So they take me in the back and they tell me that they have 2 charges that they're going to charge me with, a mischief over 5,000, and this new Kinney law that had just passed, some critical infrastructure bill thing.
But
so
again,
when I read
you were not picked up at the border.
No, God, no. So, I looked at these charges. They both sound exactly the same. One's called mischief and one's called critical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So I pointed that out right away. I was like, what is this? Like, this looks like 2 of the same thing. In my opinion, like you need to pick one. Like, you're going to charge me 2 things.
They throw everything at you and see what sticks. That's what they're doing. So
they gave me that little paper with these 2 charges on it, and they sent me into, the little room, the booth, to talk to a lawyer.
And at this time, no contact with Jerry?
None, no.
So you didn't even get to see your husband yet?
No. So that I talked to a lawyer, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. This is some crazy
is this
stuff.
A family lawyer, someone you knew, or someone?
No, actually, so a friend of ours had also seen the live going on with Jerry.
Okay.
And had called a lawyer for us. So so we'd actually I talked to just the justice of the peace originally, because there was no way to communicate back and forth to anyone. So I ended up just talking to the justice of peace, what do you call them? Legal aid or whatever, like the 1-800 lawyers, you know what I mean, that are in the little booth. So I told him what was going on, and he was like, regular advice, don't say anything, just keep your mouth shut, and you'll have an arraignment tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So I was taken to a cell. I was locked up in there. Jerry was right beside me. So he knew, like, he could see me walk by, like, so he knew that I had been arrested, he was panicked about that. So we were kind of talking to each other through the cell wall, because you can hear everything anyway. So, it was basically, he was panicked. He didn't know. He was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, we need to talk to a lawyer, I was just like, hang tight, Jer, we'll figure this out. Just, obviously,
I got to tell you something. They did that so they can get info. 100%.
Yeah, which, I mean,
100%.
They do. It's so funny, because all their little tricks to get info, it's like, there's no info to get. So go ahead and play your tricks. I
get why they're doing it, but oh my God, I'm so sorry they did that.
Yeah, like, we don't care. It's like, if we were criminals, it might be a problem, but we're not.
I get it. But the fact that you're innocent, it makes it a huge problem to me. This is entrapment. Yeah. These are things they're doing that's not right.
Totally. But to us, I mean, you don't think in those lines. You're just like, well, whatever. You can hear us. Big deal. Like, so what?
That's an innocent heart thinking that way, for sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, they they did the whole torture thing in there too. No lights off, lights on all night long.
Were you in jail overnight?
Absolutely.
Okay. How long were you in jail?
I was just in jail overnight. I was there for like full 24 hours. But so they wanted to interrogate me, which, was not interested in having any conversation with them, other than to tell them that they were completely out to lunch. And I couldn't believe how much of a lunatics they were, considering the situation. I put a lot of, I did a lot of interrogating of them, honestly. I asked them about their integrity, the morality, and about, holding up charter rights and why they decided to, let this situation happen. As far as I was concerned, that they were the, one entity in this country that could have put their foot down and said, we cannot enforce things that are not laws. They, with the mandates and everything, I mean, we all saw what they were doing. There was no legislative process, no parliamentary process to make these laws, what they were doing to people. We actually had counter laws in writing that disputed these mandates. And so, I had conversations with them. Why is it that you just chose so quickly to decide to enforce things that to not be actual laws, when you could have said, and I'm sure you must have known the type of chaos that it would cause to have a mob rule situation happening in our country, where one group is mowing over another group and their rights. And especially when it comes to bodily autonomy, that's probably the most private thing for a person to want to protect, is your body. Correct. For whatever means. You know what I mean? Like it's we talk about, safety of the person, or security of the person. I mean, security of the person and your conscience both fall under protecting your body and the right to your bodily autonomy. And I think that that's probably the most private, intimate threshold that you could try to want to cross for someone, is to invade their body by any means, So, I asked them, like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, did you not think that there was going to be a conflict in this country by you guys propping up this craziness and not being diplomatic about it? Like, we all have the right to our own thing here. So all you had to do was say, no, we can't enforce things. If you want to make these things into laws, go through the process to do so. And then we're on the hook. We got no choice. We're here to enforce the laws that are created and are passed and have weight in this country. And so they didn't really want to talk to me.
That's incredible that you're talking to them about that. And good job, by the way. Good job. That's the stuff you should talk to the police about. I do say don't talk to the police, but this is advocacy. What you were doing there was advocacy. I applaud that. Of course, it's deaf ears on their side.
They don't care. They didn't care. They just didn't want to talk to me, basically. It was not as it wasn't as potent for them, because they weren't, like, I understand how police work in Canada. I know that they can lie to you. I know that their main go-to is entrapment. So, asking questions and getting your agreement to them so that they can twist that into their own narrative. Like, so, like, not to sound arrogant or whatever, but I'm quite well aware of how the police operate in their,
I'm glad you are.
Tactics. So it was pretty easy for me to not be manipulated by them. Like, it didn't matter to me, how they were looking at me. I have no desire to please them in any way, shape, or form, especially the way that they had been acting. And the RCMP has a really long history of garbage in this country. They have a lot of scandals. They've done a lot of political influence over the years. They've set people up. They've ruined lives. They've destroyed lives. So, I'm not inclined to be trusting of them. I respect them as who they are and what their position is in this country, but I don't have to. I respect their position. I don't respect them as an organization. Okay, gotcha. So I'm not inclined to believe what they say. I'm not obligated to either. So, it's like,
you felt this way before the arrest?
Oh God! Oh gosh, yeah. Okay. It's
just establishing a timeline, because of course after I can see how you felt that way, but before you even recognized it.
No. I've seen some of the things. I mean, I've been into.
You're a strong woman. I just want to say that you're a very strong person.
Well, thank you. It's served me well in this situation. That's for sure. But no, I'm well aware of the tactics that they use, like I said, and some of the things that they've done over, the course of history. And, there's people don't know about the dirty tricks division, and about the Mr. Big operations and all these things that they've done. Like, we don't have a lot of, we're starting to get it, but we don't have a lot of major crime in this country. Like, we're lucky in Canada that we live pretty peacefully without, a lot of these, major crimes that we see in other countries that, police normally have to deal with. And so there's almost, a bit of they need to create certain hype in order to justify their budgets and their existence. And I mean, we see them do these things. It's not uncommon. So if you have any history at all of who they are and what they're about, I think it's healthy to be skeptical of them because they don't have a great track record. Their credibility is not. It's not there. It's not wonderful. And I'm not trying to say that all RCMP officers are bad, but there's pods of them that are within the organization that are utilized because they don't have morality and principle. And so they can be utilized, manipulated, and they'll do it for a damn paycheck or a promotion. And that's just the reality. I'm sorry. I don't care if people don't like that. That's the reality of our policing system, our federal policing system. So you can go look it up, check out Grant Bristow. There's the poor fella in Alberta here that they blew up a pipe or a wellhead on his property and framed him for it. Like there's a list. There's a laundry
destroyed
list.
During the Coutts protest itself. They destroyed.
Right. I mean, breaking laws in the name of upholding the law. Okay, sure. I mean, as soon as you break the law, your authority and your credibility is moot. Like you can't stand on your moral high ground.
So right.
Right? You can't stand on your moral high ground after, you've proven to disrespect the very, standards that you say that you're upholding. So again, all my personal opinion, I'm not trying to sway the public in any way, but
I want you to, because you're giving very good advice here, like very
well.
Very
if you do your research, you'll come to the same understanding that I do. So I just encourage people to go have a peek, go take a look, But anyway, I got through the night, dealing with them on a couple of different, interrogation sessions. They showed me the picture, the big bad gun picture. They weren't impressed with my lack of interest in it. I was like, so what?
I have to say, I really love the fact that you don't have a filter. Like when I first met you, I realized that really quickly, and I love that. I don't want that to change. That's exactly the type of people we need around here. So thank you for that. And I can imagine their impression of you when they saw you do that too. It'll be like, oh wow, this is a strong person. And
they weren't pleased that didn't sway me at all. I mean, because so they were trying to ask me questions about like I wasn't there, they're trying to ask me questions about some of the supposed raid that just happened. Like, you do realize that we're in High River. You've been following us around for several days. So I have not been in Coutts since Saturday night. Here it is Monday afternoon. You've already done your thing of whatever you've claimed to do. I wasn't there. So why would I have information about the situation that you are actually involved in? So maybe you could fill me in because I wasn't there. So you know more about it than I do. So maybe you could fill me in actually instead of
I want a
asking me to
recording
fill
of
you.
this. Is there a way for us to get this recording? Because I want to see that. I want Canada
I'm
to be
sure
so
that
proud.
it's in my disclosure package somewhere.
Let's FOI it. Let's try and get our hands on this. Okay, keep going. I'm loving this. You're awesome.
Well, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, why are you asking me questions about something I wasn't involved in? And you were like,
Right?
I would love to be updated. Give me a briefing. How about, right? Because you're making these crazy claims and I wasn't even there, so they didn't really have much to offer there, but they really, so at one point in time, some guy walks in randomly, and this is the other thing too. We had a layer of investigators between us and the primary investigators. I never spoke to anyone accusing myself or Jerry or the other guys of these crimes. To the people who are accusing us, that saying, we think this happened because X, Y, Z, right? Never spoke to those people at all. Weren't allowed to. We had a layer of people in between us. So I had someone that was from Airdrie in a murder investigator lady, and she's interrogating me or trying to.
I love you.
And she's not even my accuser. And so she's saying to me, so it's funny because so when I'm asking her, she was like, well, I wasn't there either. I'm like, well, what do we have going on here?
We have something in common now, don't we? Where's the tea and coffee? Come on.
You know as much as I do then. How about that? If you weren't actually, but you still know more because you've been briefed on it. Somebody has told you a story. I haven't heard a damn thing, right? So, anyway, so it's what one point some other guy walks in. and he's holding something, he's like a piece of paper, like this to his chest. And he says, I've been listening to you from another room talk here. And I was like, well, that's kind of creepy, and he says, I really think that we got a lot in common, me and you. You're a very moral,
the good cop comes
person.
in.
And I just looked at him and I said, I don't know you at all. So like, I'm like, don't try to relate to me. Like, you just walked in here out of nowhere and all of a sudden you and I have something in common. What? Like, I don't know you. So anyways, and he says, I hear you questioning the validity or the, of our story or of this raid or whatever. And I was like, I wasn't there, man. This is your story. I have every right to question it. It's not like I was there, So, and I'm not just inclined to believe you folks. I'm sorry, not sorry, but so you're going to have to prove it to me. How about that? Because to me, it's just a story and I don't,
right.
I have no reason to believe you. Because what you're saying is ludicrous and it doesn't match up to anything that I've experienced or I saw or heard or anything. So you're just another Joe Blow with a story, right? Yeah. Like, so he takes the picture and it's a black and white version of the, the big scary picture, and he slaps it down on the table and he says, "This isn't fake or staged." And I just looked at him and I said, well, isn't that an interesting choice of first words? And he just stood there and looked at me. And I said, this means nothing to me. This could have been taken at any raid, at any place, at any time in history. So it's a table with some stuff on it behind or in front of an RCMP vehicle. Like, what is this supposed to mean to me? I don't have any idea what you're getting at here or what you want from me in this process. Like, so he just grabbed his picture and away he went, walked out the door.
That's awesome. I love you. I love you.
I was like,
I wish everybody was like you in that facet, in that time. Like, that's how you should be at that moment. You're awesome. We're going to teach a lot of people how to act in the interrogation rooms. Keep going.
Wow. To me, you just like, I mean, these people aren't your friends. They're sitting, and here's one thing I've always remembered, and maybe it's just from watching TV and stuff, back in the days. I haven't watched TV in a really long time. But, everything you say can and will be held against
yeah,
the operative word, you, meaning not used to explain anything, not used to absolve you, will be used against you. So every time you open your mouth, they're looking for ways for whatever comes out to be used against you. So Correct. If you understand that principle, then it's not that hard to shut the frig up.
STFU, right? Shut the up. 100%. That is 100% the right advice when you are with police officers.
It's not hard. It really isn't. And I mean, and of course, just the way, like, they're very slimy, the way they act. Like, it's like, this whole saying things and trying to get you to agree to them and all this. Like, it's like, what? Like, don't put words in my mouth. I'll do the talking if you're going to interrogate me. And I don't need you to suggest things and have me to agree to them. Like, that's manipulation. I'm just really, I don't like being manipulated. It just pisses me off, or like when people try to. So like, that's not the way with me at all. So
no, I learned that quick. I learned that you are a very genuine person.
Yeah, it's just a straight piss off. And so I'm just starting out of like not interested in having a conversation immediately, right? So, I mean, their tactics are just not, for a person like me, they don't work. They're just not, find a new game, guys, find a new game, because this wasn't work for everybody. It's not cookie cutter world out there. So
I'm just going to sidetrack for a quick second. Jerry must be an amazing human being to get past your filters and your skepticism. I'm not joking. Like, I mean, for you to build a relationship with him with this view on the world, he must be a very, very good guy.
He is a very good guy.
Saying that.
He absolutely is. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it was very, and like, I'm a protective person, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely, have the mama bear qualities, but for everything and everybody, you know what I mean? Like, if you're close to me, if I love you, then, you're going to get defended venomously from me. That's just who I am. And even if you don't know me, I was actually standing up for people I didn't know back in 2020 to 2022, whatever. It didn't matter because the point was that people needed to be stood up for. And that's what you do when this kind of shit happens, right? You don't be the standard Canadian to be like, well, that doesn't affect me, so I'm just going to stay out of it. You stand up and you defend your neighbor. That's the most important thing to do. Because when you need to be stood up for, they might be there to help you out. And that's just,
Correct.
It's a very
If
simple,
we all did that, there'd be a
forward.
lot less to stand up for.
Right. Exactly. So that's just who we are, who I am. And I don't like bullies. Ew, like bullies are rude, and they're we hear about them all the time about in schools and whatever. Well, they happen in real life too with adults and governments and everything else.
Never
so
stops.
you never
Even
stops.
the elderly, they bully each other too.
Exactly.
It happens everywhere.
Right. So, it's just, you don't ever stop having to, push back against that kind of behavior throughout your whole life. So, anytime that there's a bully, I think that if you see someone being bullied, you should stand up for them in the moment, as long as it's safe to do so, I guess. Sometimes there are some situations where maybe it wouldn't necessarily be safe to step in, but, use your discretion. And if it's safe, get your ass in there and make sure that you're standing up for your fellow, man, because that's the only way we get through life.
Can I ask you another side question? Do you have faith?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm no staunch Christian or anything, but I have a relationship with God, and I absolutely believe in our Creator, higher power. I've got lots of angels in my network, which is probably why I am so strong. I have no problem.
That's what I'm about to say, because you are replicating a lot of the teachings that we go through. Because the strength, the meekness, you're replicating a lot. So that's why I asked. Because either you're.
Yeah, I'm a big utilizer of Archangel Michael. He probably gets sick of hearing from me all the time, but he's my back, my little back pocket secret tool, of when I need to purge myself of negativity and shield myself from the lower entities of the world. I certainly call on him, and he's never disappoints. But there's a lot of craziness that goes down when it comes to these types of situations. Like the police. Here's my perspective. The police typically in this country, and it doesn't really matter. I've seen it, heard it through lots of people that have had experience with the police. Is that the police decide something happened, and they don't investigate to find out if they're right. They look for everything possible to validate themselves.
100%, and they're broken people. Like something's wrong with them.
100%. So anyway, we get through the night. There's a couple different sessions. They're not getting. They're frustrated with me probably more than anything. So I get to have a sleep at one point as best as I could with the lights on. They were very adamant to be asking the question constantly, do you feel you're being treated okay? Like they were very, making sure that they fed me and, all this stuff. And it's like,
I think they got scared of you.
Well, no, it's just, there's petty ways of like,
condescending or
trying to justify, hey, I know that this is a crazy thing we're doing here, but you're being fed though, right? Like they want to hear their own validation that they're treating you properly. It's like, no, accusing me of things that damn well that we didn't do is not treating us properly. So sure, I'll give you that you're feeding me, and I have water. But there's nothing
like
just
somebody who kicks their dog
this.
And gives them a treat after. It's like,
totally.
It doesn't change a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the next day, I had another interrogation the next morning. They tried very hard. I'm not going to be able to get into exact information because this is ITO stuff. So I'm not going to be able to talk about it.
Be careful.
There's my cat. Bubba. This is my Bubba Gump, my cat. Anyway, so there was a piece of information that they were utilizing in my interrogation that they were trying to get me to take ownership of, which was very clear that I couldn't. Like it wasn't mine to own, and they knew that. But they worked really, really, and it was the idiot guy that came in that thought he had something in common with me that,
I love how you named them all. Idiot guy.
Yeah. that he was back again, and we didn't have anything in common anymore.
No.
And,
He was jealous of you at this point.
Yeah, and so he's very adamant to try to get me to take ownership to this piece of information. And I was like, you and I both know that I can't, and that's not mine. And you know that. You have all the information to verify that. So I have no idea what your tactic is here, but you're pissing me off at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pissed. Like, this is straight up entrapment, and you think I'm an idiot? Like, okay, now I'm offended, I'm pissed off, and you guys are getting on my nerves at this point, right? So and I'm very much explaining this. So then a captain or a sergeant comes in, removes him from the room, basically like, okay, this ain't working. Like, go.
No, they sent in their A team too.
Yeah, and then he sits down and he tells me that he's been the one that's been interrogating Jerry all night, and that, he believes him to be a good guy, that he's not a conspirator. And I said, really? Then why in the name of God are we sitting here then? And he said, I'm going to get your arraignment done up right away, and we're going to get you out of here. And he got up and left. He didn't answer my question.
Wow.
So anyway, I went back to my cell for a little bit, and then we, brought me in to do, my bail hearing, arraignment, bail hearing, whatever. So there's very little said, during the bail hearing. The judge basically said, what evidence do you have to make these charges stick? And whoever was on the other line, the Crown or whoever it was, said, we have undercover cops saying that they saw her transport guns. And I was, what? Like, they never even asked. Like, first of all, that did not happen. And second of all, they never asked me about any of that.
This is the first time you're hearing of that allegation.
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. And that's the last that I hear of it. And they're like, okay, whatever, bail set, 2,000 recognizance, here's the conditions. They had tried to put conditions originally on Jerry and I was like, nope, not happening. I guess you're gonna have to just keep me in here or whatever, but that's not happening. It's not even feasible. Like, I have to.
What conditions were they trying to put on between you and Jerry?
Like, no contact. At that point, no contact.
Like, no phone call, no nothing.
Right, like nothing. So I was like, no. Like, you're not doing that. We're, we live together, like I have to be able to talk to him about his kids, like there's, are you crazy? Like, this doesn't even make sense. So we refused that, and they gave up on that. At least on my side, I didn't realize that they had conditions on Jerry internally, that he hadn't even had a bail hearing and he had conditions. Okay. So, like, anyways.
You're wise. Keep going. By the way, I just want a couple comments that come up so far already. You should be the premier of Alberta. You should be. This is coming out of the chat. I'm just passing this information on, and I cannot argue what they're saying in the chat. You are spectacular.
Oh, thank
you. I have to let you know that. We're going to get into something a little bit later with you about maybe running as something, because I think our community needs lots of voices like you. So please continue.
Yeah, I mean, if people like common sense and rationality, I'm your girl. Other than that, probably not.
Well, that's what we want. So yes, you are our girl. I believe it. And Baba loves you too, so I know you're a good person.
Yes, exactly. He definitely vote for me for sure. He's a little bit biased, but
one paw for you.
But anyway, so we're in this bail hearing, and so I'm kind of blown away, because I'm like, wait a minute, like, I'm not sure now, like, what my charges are, to be honest with you. Like, I'm thinking.
So you went from mischief to, what was the other one? Infrastructure. And now you're all of a sudden carrying guns, according to them.
Right. So what was interesting, actually, the night just before my bail hearing, they brought in to read these charges, and the officer was adamant he's like, do you understand? And I just remembered from some of the common law stuff, I'm like, no, I don't understand, right? I'm not let you overstand me, right? So I'm like, no, I don't. Right? So right? So I was like, no, I don't.
Overstand me.
Right, right? Because if I understand, then you're overstanding me, right? And I'm like, nope, sorry, not happening. I don't understand. And I honestly didn't understand the infrastructure thing. I knew it was a brand new bill. They told me it was. And so it's like, I'm not briefed on this. I have no idea what the hell this even means. So, Right? So I was like,
You're like the
nope.
president all of a sudden. Where's my brief on this?
Well, I'm a citizen in this country. Make a new law. I should know what it is.
You're going to be more than a
you know,
citizen. You're going to be a
what the
leader. I
perimeters
feel it.
are of how to stay within inside of it if it's now a law, right? Like, never even heard of the damn thing. So I refused to acknowledge understanding because I really didn't. And I just knew that was also a trap. So I was like, no, I don't. And I'm like, you do with whatever. Because he was like trying to read. I was like, listen, I see your lips moving. I hear the words coming out, but I don't understand. Okay. Like, that's where we're at. So anyways, when we get done the bail hearing and I'm, they're getting ready to release me.
Oh boy.
They tell
Outside
me
my wife, you're my favorite person, just so you know. Outside of my wife, you're my favorite person. Keep going. I want to be here for hours.
So they're releasing me and they tell me, oh, by the way, we've disabled your security cameras, just FYI. Oh, and like before this, so in the night, they're like threatening, of course, because I'm just not playing ball with these people at all, right? So they're a little annoyed with me. So at one point they're like, well, we're gonna raid your house. We're gonna search your house. And I was like, okay, why don't you get at it? Like, go get your warrant and get at it sooner than later so you can quit barking up the wrong tree here. It would save us all a lot of time and misery. So go ahead. I said, I got two rules though. The door's unlocked because I left so quickly in a hurry to get down here because of your screwery. And number 2, don't let my cats out.
Right.
So they tell me that they've disabled my security cameras. That's like before. They're like, FYI, when you're going home, we've disabled it. I was like, okay. Like, I'm thinking, what security? You don't have security at the house.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't say anything. I was just like, yeah, all right. So I get home and I'm very disappointed to see that they had used their big thing to bust the doors in, the unlocked doors, so broke the door jams. And on all the doors, like on the garage, on the house. They had the kind of disturbing part was they had.
So that wasn't disturbing. So
well, I mean, it's all disturbing, but it gets even more disturbing. So like they'd search the house, which who cares? But they put everything back for the most part, except for in Jerry's daughter's room. They left her room upside down in a complete and total mess. Like the mattresses pulled off, the blankets, like the drawers open. It was like, why did you do this in a child's room? You know what I mean? Like, It was just weird. Anyways. And then the house that we lived in, we rented the house, and it was, I guess like a prefab style house. People call them trailers out here. I'm from New Brunswick, and I'll tell you what, a trailer's got a freaking chassis on it. Okay.
Right. It confuses a lot of people out east for sure.
It does, yeah. So, but it's like a bungalow, but like a 2-piece that they stick together. They bring it 2 pieces, stick it together on a foundation, and then
now for everyone to understand, they physically moved that building.
They do,
profits.
yeah, they do. That's why they call them mobile. To me, we call them prefabs, right? But anyway,
right.
So in the prefab houses, of course, they just have a tiny little, attic. It's just a small crawl space, like for the venting in between, right? So you could tell in our house that nobody had ever been up there since they built, like they put it together, because the plaster like was over top of where the little hatch thing is or whatever. Like you had to look really hard to even notice it there. So they used an X-Acto knife, cut it out, ripped it down out of there, pulled all the insulation, made a huge mess with that, and then left it. It was like, and I mean, the thing it was very clear it had never been opened. You know what I mean? But whatever, do your search. So that, they just made a mess and then left, right?
They were desperately looking for something. That's what I'm getting at. They didn't know what they're looking for. They're just looking for something.
Right. And which is so funny because like they left the warrant on my table. I saw it when I got home. And the warrant said that they were looking for firearms, ammunition, and documents and data pertaining to the security at Coutts. And so they took so I personally don't own a gun, but I have one for skeet shooting. Jerry bought it, for me to use. I have a hunter
So
safety
he's the owner,
course
but
and
under his
a
supervision,
firearm safety course. Yeah, exactly.
under his
In New
supervision,
Brunswick,
you
I actually was legal to have, like through there, what you have to do in New Brunswick is a little bit different than Alberta. So like in New Brunswick, I had a shotgun that was gifted to me from my grampy. And we actually do bird hunting back there. We like to shoot partridge and eat them. Here, they're kind of teeny tiny and there's not a lot of them. And so like I don't hunt at all in Alberta. I've hunted quite a bit in New Brunswick, but so I took all the appropriate courses in New Brunswick, to be able to utilize my gifted or my handed down gun. So I had to have 2 courses, and I had to have an actual hunter's, a firearms license, or not a firearms, sorry, a hunter's hunting license for the birds.
Right.
And then I was good to go. So I did lots of hunting, bird hunting back home with my girlfriends. Actually, we had a little girls hunting club. So we did a bird hunts back there. But in New Brunswick, I don't do that. But I learned to shoot skeet, which is way more fun because you usually back home you're chasing around birds and the pucker brush, trying to get them. They're on the ground. And so you don't really learn to have much of a, like it's not that hard to do. You know what I mean? Shooting skeet's way different. It took me a long time to realize.
You like the challenge. You're a challenge type of
I love
girl.
it. It's fun. It's super fun. So Jerry bought me a skeet shooter for my birthday a couple of years ago. And like where we were on the acreage, we had all kinds of room. Our backdrop was onto a big, huge land. So we just have skeet shooting parties at our house. And, our friends would come over and we would shoot skeet, it's fun. So I had a 20 gauge shotgun for that, bright pink camo, the girls gun. It was no guessing about who was using that one. So, but again, yeah, perfectly legal. Jerry's a firearms. He has a pal. He does. He actually helps.
Pal or a pal?
No, just a pal. Like we're not.
No handguns.
It's just varmint stuff, right? Jerry likes to hunt coyotes and gophers and stuff, and like living on the acreage, gophers everywhere. Like he'd get up, shoot a couple in the morning, usually before he'd get, go to work, and or shoot them on the way to work as he was heading to work early in the morning. So he was very typical for him to have his 22 or his 12 gauge in the truck and stored properly behind the seat, with your ammunition in the glove box. Everything's done proper. Jerry's very familiar with with the laws that way. He actually has a friend that teaches the firearm safety course. And so like he's Mr. Safety when it comes to, which is good. You always, want to be handling firearms in a safe manner. And like anytime we were having skeet shoots, very strict rules. The guns are on the table. This is the line. You're not allowed to go in front of it. One person at a time. Like, he was policing us about how to stay safe to do it. And
anybody to get your attention has to be a good person in those capacities. I don't think you'd be with a slop. I'm being genuine.
No,
I don't think you'd be
exactly.
a sloppy person, irresponsible person. I don't think that would be somebody you're attracted to.
No, not at all. Because then you can't have fun when you're doing that. You know what I mean? So you have to be, in order for it to be fun, it has to be safe. So
I can imagine he was being extra careful because of you. Like you.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I mean, especially if there's the kids around or anything too. Like, I mean, it's like family, time, right? So you just take all the precautions and make sure everybody, and Jerry, like he loves his friends, but some of his friends are, city folk. So he's like, you follow my rules when we're out here on the farm. What I mean? So anyway, so they took that gun and, I think we might've had a handful of shells left. We just had a skeet shooting event at our house in January, like just after between Christmas and the holidays or whatever. So, we were pretty low on pigeons and ammunition. We had not restocked, like we'd get some before the next one, right? Or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, whatever, they took the few handfuls of freaking, bird shot that was still kicking around. And
can I add a side question here? Have you had any problems with the law and guns at any point? Has anybody ever warned you don't carry it or anything like that? No, never once have they crossed your path. Okay.
Not at all.
Until we get into this stuff.
Yeah. And so anyway, they took this and whatever they didn't take anything else. Like when they said documents and data, I mean, I'm talking to you on my laptop. It was still sitting in the same spot that it was on my table when I get home.
So they didn't grab that data.
They didn't take, well, whatever. There was nothing here to take, but I mean, they didn't you would thought that they would have taken that. They took my phone at the jail when I was arrested. They took that, seized that and kept it. Yeah. So, I mean.
Well, let me just remind you something, because you may have missed an episode with Donald Best. So Donald Best sat us down to tell us how warrants are drafted and how they're done. And he explained to us the documents and data line is we want to search your entire house.
Yeah, I did see that one. Yeah, so that means that they can
just
open drawers
remind you
and do whatever.
and the audience. Yeah, that's a bit of a catch-all to really make your life crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, they, like I said, they kicked the doors in, tossed the house around, whatever, took that one, because, between Jerry and I were, and they're all really technically his, but just 3 guns.
And I also want to let people know,
and a 22.
city folk may not know this. So when someone has a PAL, they are allowed to, under their supervision, allow someone else to shoot it. That's legal and that's allowed because it's under the supervision of a licensed person. So for the people in the city, the fact that she's shooting a gun on her property at pigeons, and by the way, pigeons aren't the birds; those are the discs that fly in the air.
Yeah, clay pigeons.
So people understand that she's not shooting a bunch of pigeons, although she's allowed to. She's shooting the clay pigeons. So 100% legal. You're doing nothing illegal. In fact, it's quite the recreation out here. A lot of people do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I just want to let the city folk and a lot of people out east understand that.
So anyways, this is what they've taken from the house is just so my pink gun and some shells that were left over, the few that were there. And so so in that photo, the big fat, big fancy photo, like none of our stuff is in that. There's the 3 guns that belong to Jerry, like 2 shotguns, a 12 gauge, 20 gauge, and a 22. Like those are, the 2 skeet shooting guns and the 1 varmint gun. Like that's the extent of,
your entire family's. Not weapons, guns.
No, they're just, I mean, again, varmints and recreational. So anyways, whatever. I wasn't surprised, obviously, that they took that, and and actually, I told them. They'd ask me, "What are we going to find at your home?" I was like, "Well, you're going to find my shotgun. Like, that's about it. Maybe a few shells. Like, go get her done. If you want it, go take it. Like, whatever.
Go get her done. There's a meme. Get her done. Jaclyne says, "Get her done." There you go.
Right. Like, if nothing to hide, right? Like, just go, like, whatever. Uncover your shit. Roll over your stones so that we can be done with this stuff, right? Like, So anyway, what I noticed though, a few days later, because I was miscombobulated, I might have been very tough and strong in the moment. But once I got home and couldn't take Jerry with me and realized what they were doing to him and the extent of the seriousness of what they'd actually charged him with. It was hard. It was tough. Like I definitely was not operating in superwoman mode at that moment. So for several days thereafter, I was worried about a lot of things, right? They'd splashed our faces all over the media. We were domestic terrorists. I mean, all the stuff, right? And like, not that I care because nobody gets to define me. I'm very much a Christine Anderson fan, and I agree with the way she operates, which is you don't get to define me. I know who I am. I know what I say and do, and you're not going to define me through your own lens. That's not going to happen.
I'm going to sidestep you again. Christine Anderson's probably coming to Canada again. I'm working.
Yes, I'd heard that.
Who are bringing her here. Do you want to meet her?
Yeah, I would love to meet her. I think it'd be fantastic to meet her.
It may be remote. You may have to do this kind of thing, but we'll see what we can do on that one. Will Bubba be there?
Yeah, Bubba would definitely. He doesn't miss a.
Okay. Well, that might seal the deal. I have to check. So my friends that are watching, you know who you are. Let's see if we can get a little chat here.
That'd be wonderful. I would love to meet her acquaintance for sure.
Well, we'll see what happens
brave lady,
powerful women come together. Yes. Holy smokes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be amazing to watch.
It would be, I'd be very honored to meet her. But yeah, so they, the days afterwards, like there was a lot of confusion. People were, calling me. I was kind of self-isolating because I wasn't really sure what to tell people at the moment. I didn't have all the answers. But when I got home,
what's your legal telling you at this time? What's your legal telling you?
I really don't. So I'm not. I just have the one lawyer that has been there for my bail hearing, and then I really don't know him, nor am I inclined to keep him. So I have nobody at the moment. At that time, I'm not. There's nobody retained. I'm not talking to anyone. So I was worried about my job, of course, my boss, and he was good. I mean, he was very,
what do you do?
Gracious to me. I sell industrial lubricants. So everything for, rotating equipment, stationary, mobile, and otherwise. So I am an outside sales, so I'm very, I'm all over the place. People know me; they know my face. My face is my product a lot of the time. So, anyways, they were good to me. Basically, hey, these are accusations. It's what they are, and they'll be treated as such. And so, we will continue on business as usual. They were. I was very happy and thankful that that they were doing right by me in that regard. I am successful in my business. I love what I do. I love my customers. And so it was very important to me. And then, of course, obviously having income for what I was about to be facing
that's good news.
Finances. And
you want to give them a shout out for this? Like, let's people know.
Honestly, I'm not going to, because I know that they don't want to be, and I don't want to disrespect them in any way.
That's even better. So there are good employers out there, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would not want to put a spotlight on them that they don't want, and I respect them, and they respect me. So we're going to keep that way.
Well, if you guys need lubricant in Alberta,
absolutely. I'm telling you right now, I could go on a whole thing. Don't even get me started on lubes, because I'm very passionate about that as well. Save you a lot of money and downtime, parts replacement. If you need to tighten up that PM program, give me a holler. So people were calling me scared. Like, again, here. So let me back this up. I knew that we could expect violence from the state. Okay. I knew that they would at some point crack skulls. It was going to happen. Right. I knew that they were going to beat people. I knew it. I knew it was happening. You can look at countries around the world, even in the Commonwealth and other, first world countries where these things happen, and they have the monopoly on violence, and they will use it. So I was very nervous for what was going to happen in Ottawa. I had the feeling it was not going to be good. And so I was really kind of glued to the TV in heartbroken mode. I did not want to witness that, but I had to. And so I saw everything that went down. It was devastating. And I knew that they had used us to justify doing that.
Yes, they did. And I believe they told.
And I believe that they had mutiny. I mean, we knew from Mounties for Freedom, Police on Guard for Thee, the Elenas and the Rick Abbotts of the world who had stood up and said, no, this isn't right, that they were not getting an over and abundance. And even from talking to the police officers when we went into, through checkpoints and stuff when we were at Milk River, they checked your registration and stuff and everything, chit-chatted with them, and the word on the street was, this is the easiest overtime we've ever had. We're sitting around here making buck while we're watching people barbecue hot dogs, sing songs, and warm their hands by the fire. So, it was they were pretty cool with that. They didn't mind at all being there. I'd much rather be here than chasing drug addicts or drug, dealers around Grand Prairie. Why not? Right. So fair
enough.
So we knew that they did not have people internally throwing their hands up being like, send me, I can't wait to go beat these peaceful people. Give me my baton. I'm ready. We knew, obviously there's some losers doing that, but it wasn't the bulk of the people. Right. Yeah. So they needed to do several things with their narrative. Number one, they needed to justify the Emergency Act, which we'd already been hearing for days that they wanted to. And now we know from the OPEC that they had been planning it from day one. It sounds like the second they heard the rumblings of possibly a convoy, before it even actually came into inception, and there was a verified reality of it on the internet, that they were already talking about the Emergency Act.
We heard a year before actually, let's just update people that something they don't know. A year before, they were talking about getting their own Jan 6. And the Emergency Act is actually something people, unless you watch the POEC, you don't know this. They tried to enact the Emergency Act one time before. It was when COVID itself came out. Yeah. So they did it properly. They went and talked to the provinces, got the provinces to give their opinion and have this whole conversation. And the provinces, no, we're good. We don't need that. We have our healthcare system. We're fine. And then later they did it a second time for the convoy, and they skipped a whole bunch of steps the second time around.
Yes.
So I want people to understand that this government did and try and enact the Emergency Act for COVID way before the convoy. And then during the convoy, they did it a second time without following the same steps they did the first time. The first time they did it, they weren't successful. The provinces said no. Second time, they basically skipped the provinces and then moved ahead with it. I just want people to understand that that's the reality of what we're dealing with at that point in time.
Right. And I mean, they'd already called a state of emergency, which in essence allows them, it gives them their Section 1 clause there in the charter, which allows them to
do whatever,
take everything away. So they were already operating on ridiculous power, as it were, just by declaring a state of emergency and keeping a perpetual state of emergency through that entire, ordeal. I'm not going to call it a pandemic. I refuse to call it that. But anyway, we knew that was, we knew all this was in the works. Like it was really starting to get, probably, there's like, if the numbers start to dwindle, people are probably going to get jumped. Like they're probably going to get beaten. Like it's just a reality of how these things go. Right. And so we were all just nervous about that and like worried about how that was going to go down as far as like how much force are they going to use? Like how is this going to look? Like it was when, the people say that they were starting to think about going home. That was the reason most people were like, if we stay much longer, we're going to get beaten, like at the minimum, possibly shot with rubber bullets and gas and whatever else, right? But at the very minimum.
And you're seeing the narrative come out too about the Coutts men at this time and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, just my opinion, they needed to kill like 3 birds with 1 stone. They needed to justify the EMA to use it. They needed to create, they had so much mutiny. I call it mutiny. And I'm sure they do too, because of how they treat, like, right. It's a membership. Don't forget, in the RCMP, you're a member and you take an oath to each other to keep each other's secrets as part of the oath taking process. And, like it's frowned upon for you to go against the grain, as we saw with those, brave officers in Nova Scotia who said no to Brenda Lucki and then told their story after the fact. And I mean, I'm sure that they have been treated like the absolute worst scabs of the world because they dared.
Can I remind people what this is about?
Yeah.
I'm going to remind people what you're talking about here. So Brenda Lucki contacted the Nova Scotia police officers and said, listen, we want a list of the guns. We want to publicize this. We want to politicize this. And they said no. They stood up to her. They recorded it and then released it. So basically whistleblowers over in Nova Scotia RCMP whistleblew on her. And this is what we keep referring to when we're talking about what they did in Alberta, which was completely different than what they did in Nova Scotia when it comes to releasing the information of the guns during an active investigation. In Nova Scotia, they withheld that information from the public. In Alberta, under Brenda Lucki, they immediately publicized and propagandized it. I just want to highlight that to people who are listening, because we talk about that Nova Scotia recording. This is what you're talking about. There's some officers that recorded Brenda Lucki trying to get them to release information for political reasons, and they stood up to her and released that audio. Just updating people what that was about.
Yeah, so we again, in my personal opinion, I believe that they didn't have anyone, really jumping up and down saying, let's go get them. They knew people, they knew we were peaceful. Everyone knew we were peaceful that came anywhere near the place in any situation, whether it was Milk River, Coutts, Kingston, Ottawa,
Windsor. I'm getting lots of messages out of Windsor, by the way.
Sorry.
There's some political prisoners out there too, by the way. I just found this out.
Absolutely. So like the officers weren't dumb. They knew that they were dealing with regular everyday Canadians that needed to get the hell out of, people had cabin fever. They need to get the hell out and shake some of this pent up, energy and isolation off. And that's really what was going on. That's why they turned into barbecues and parties, because people had not socialized in any meaningful way for years, literally. And so
it was a great let out. We were let out.
It was a pressure relief valve. And a very positive outlet for pressure, right? I mean, it was done in a peaceful and fun and family oriented manner. It couldn't
in the Canadian way in mid-February cold too. So
exactly.
Of all the times to plan a revolt against the government, middle of February. No, you're responding to the time.
It was just the right time.
You're responding for what's going on. Yeah.
Right. So I don't believe that with their plan that they were working on to squash everyone, and they had plans.
Mhm.
They had big
Yep.
plans to
Yeah,
squash.
the Gen 6
I've
plans
heard
for over
about
a
some
year
of them.
ago.
I won't necessarily talk about them in detail,
No,
but
that
I
came
know
out
that
in the
there.
POEC. We heard a
Yep,
bunch of them there.
there was some big plans with some nasty stuff that they were
Mhm.
planning to do to people, and I don't believe that they had the volunteers they needed to do that. And I
I
believe
believe
that
you're
they
right.
needed to create a narrative where now the officers stopped seeing the people as peaceful protesters that were
But
very
it's the enemy of the
benign,
police.
and
Mhm.
instead, oh look, they want to kill us now. These are domestic terrorists. They go from peaceful Canadians doing their thing, having a pressure relief moment where they're enjoying each other's company, to all of a sudden these guys, they want to kill us.
Right. And I
And
have
then
one
we
more detail
see,
here that we
yeah,
heard from Rick Abbott. They also removed all the non-compliant people out of the police.
yes,
So the ones that didn't want to
exactly,
do the vax and ones that stood up, people like you who would have absolutely said, this makes no sense, show me the data. They
right,
removed you from the police force. Now all we're left with are the ones that complied, the ones that want to keep their jobs. And now
right,
they're being told you're the target of these people. Put that
right.
all together and you can kind of see how their mind switches.
100%. And then now we have, all kinds of, from what I understanding was that they still actually, so I will give the RCMP a little bit of credit, not that I like to, but I'm the person that will give it
You're an
where it's
honest
due.
person. Yeah.
And so they had, from my understanding, from what I've heard, they had way more volunteers from Calgary and Edmonton police forces to go to Ottawa to beat people than they did RCMP. So
That's where they cleaned up the police forces.
right. I'll give them that. But I believe that they needed to, so again, they needed a justification for the Emergency Act. They needed to be able to entice officers. They needed to be able to have them change their view of who we were and what, and who the people were and what they were doing, so that they would see them in a negative light. So they would have the conscience erased to go and beat them. And I also believed that they wanted to shut them all down. So 3 birds, 1 stone. Let's create a narrative and get this done.
There's a fourth stone. There's a fourth bird. There's a fourth
Yep.
bird. To have the taking away of our weapons and guns.
Yes, of course. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
And
So they're using this to say
yeah,
we need to disarm
absolutely,
people.
to make more gun laws, 100%. So
There you go.
yeah, you're right. But and again, so all of it political. The whole thing is political. All 4 reasons are political reasons.
Yeah. And there might be a fifth one. He just likes to do stupid things like this. Get his own rocks off. He might have been excited by this. Powers.
You know what? I refuse to put the blame on Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
We're talking all 338 of them. Who exactly stood up and said we shouldn't do any of this? Who? And don't tell me Pierre Poilievre is one of those people. And he wasn't even in power. And you can go back and watch what Candice Bergen said as leader of that party. So I don't want to hear any. Justin Trudeau is the problem here. You know what? That guy's an idiot. He's not a problem. He could probably barely find his fancy socks, and know which foot to put them on first thing in the morning. He's not smart enough, okay? There's way bigger, badder, smarter, more calculated people in this country, and it's a uniparty. So why would you divide them up into who's who? Because they're all the same. So
thank you for correcting me on this one.
absolutely
You're right. So
had no interest, and they had absolutely every interest in beating us down, all of them.
And do you even think they're
Canadian?
Canadian?
Poilievre's only, big major comments were that Justin Trudeau wasn't getting us all vaccinated against our will fast enough.
Fast enough. That's right. Let's remind everybody. He said we're not doing it fast enough.
Yeah, I don't pick sides. I don't get polarized in this conversation. All 338 of them let us down, and every bureaucrat in between, the ministers, the Privy Council, the PMO office, all of them. Every single one of them are culpable to this, and not one of them made any concerted effort to shut it down. Not one. So I'm not giving any credit to any one of those people.
God bless you on that one.
And nor do I agree with isolating one dude and saying it's all his fault.
That's right, because if we take him away, then everybody says it's fixed. You're right, 100%. I apologize now. I'm going to rewind my statement, and I'm going to say them.
Them.
The fifth one is them. Whoever they are, they wanted that power. So there's 5 reasons for that one stone.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And by the way, there's no way these people are going to let you get away with not becoming our leader. Just so you know, this chat is probably already working on your posters and your buttons and everything. Just so you know, I'm pretty sure. I don't think you'll be allowed to after this. Please continue. I want to hear how we're getting to today now.
So
Now, what happens with your charges? We haven't gotten to there yet.
yes. So the next, so that's okay. I'll steer back to that because this is more of my opinion stuff. But
Yeah. We'll fix the country at the end of your story.
There has to be a happy ending. I don't, there's no other way around that. So the next day, the same day that they released me, I have to, so part of the release is I have to check in with a corrections officer. I think that's, it's a new term for, like, I think they're the same as probation officers, like it's the same people. So they give me this app that I have to download. It's funny, they seize my phone and then they tell me, well, you have to use the app in order to check in with your CO. And I was like, you stole my phone. What do you want me to do? Like, I can't.
Can you give this app a rating in the store? So do you give it 1 star, 5 star?
Well, it's what's interesting is they want your biometrics. So they want you to use, and I said, no, I'm not giving you have my fingerprints, but I'm not giving them to Google. So not happening. And I haven't. I still do all my check-in. My questions get answered. I'm always up to date. And I just hit cancel.
You're still doing this now?
Oh yeah,
have to do
absolutely.
This
now?
okay, let's get to how
they send me questions once a month and just say, like, have you violated your conditions or had any interactions with police officers or moved? And so it's like, no, right? It's easy stuff. But I had to call originally to get registered. So the CO says, okay, well, you've got 2 charges. I was like, no, I don't. I have 1 charge, because when I left there with my conditions, with my release, they had written out mischief in a big paragraph about what mischief is and that. And interestingly enough, I don't know if I have them here somewhere, but so the way that they worded my release conditions, they made it sound like I was arrested at Coutts.
Right.
And they said that I was willfully blocking the highway down there.
Right, because they're trying to tie you to the event.
Which, I mean, I never ever blocked a highway. I parked on private property.
To be clear to everybody in Canada, Coutts was never blocked. There was always an emergency lane open.
And also, too, what we learned was that the RCMP took over the CBSA building. That's where they were headquartered for all of their shenanigans that they were doing. They were headquartered there. They actually had taken over. So it sounds like that CBSA had actually closed the building for them to utilize. So from what it sounds like, the border was closed on their accord, not on ours.
Correct. In Milk River, the blockade was 100% of it.
Exactly. And just for the record, the blockade was already set up for several days, long before I ever made it down to even witness it for the first time. I certainly didn't. I don't own a tractor or a truck, or like a semi. I wasn't even able to actually access the town of Coutts with my vehicle ever. I had to park in a field, in a farmer's field that he opened up for people who were coming to witness, bear witness. Basically, I was more of a witness to what was going on than a participant, honestly.
Great.
But that was just the way that we were able to show up there, just to go and bear witness and, shake hands with people and listen to their stories and let them know that they were supported. Take some, I think I took oatmeal and, sweetener and, cream and coffee one day. Another day we brought propane because they weren't getting fuel in, and so just come in and bring in a few supplies, just to offer some help and some aid. But yeah, at no point was I ever able to actually access that with my vehicle. I had to I parked and I walked up past all of the police officers that had all the roads blocked and the check stops and then you could go on to the saloon, right? So it was just interesting. They have all the
Smuggler's Saloon.
Yeah. Like they surveilled every single
smugglers
person.
and they didn't say saloon, and now I have to put
smugglers.
Smuggler's Saloon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a place, not a group of people trying to bring stuff over the border.
Right. And so, I mean, they surveilled all of us. They knew, they took every license plate of everyone who visited, if they could find you on social media, they would look at your social media. Like we heard this in court. They literally, if you were anywhere near Coutts or Milk River and they were able to capture your license plate or your face, then they were using facial recognition to find you on social media. And everyone had a background check. Everyone.
And that was the letter from Jan 6. From Jan 6, they did the same thing. So Canada came later. They knew every soul that was there.
Yes, every person that they could. And I mean, we found this out in court. We heard all this information. They did a background check on every
and nor did you
person.
care. because you're peacefully
We're like,
protesting.
so
Or even
what?
just
Like, what a
witnessing.
waste of time and resources of our taxpayer monies. Well, I think,
Mhm.
like, I get upset about wastefulness. Like, you know, it's the old saying: if you give the government the Sahara Desert, you run out of sand in 10 minutes, right? Like, you just the waste is disgusting, and especially in the state of our country right now, with our dollar being so devalued with the printing, and you know what I mean? Like, it just, to me, it just kills me. It's just mismanagement right in your face, all over the place. It's 100% treatable, curable. We could turn this country around in about 90 days if you had it in the right hands of the right people who gave a shit to, you know, utilize the resources, to put the appropriate services out there, and to stay the hell out of the way for free market to do its thing. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, it was just a waste of time and energy. And they were, you know, treating everyday citizens like they were criminals, like they were there, you know, they set out as though they were there on a criminal investigation, even though they claimed to be just keeping the peace, you know? So, so they knew that, you know, they absolutely knew that I had no ability to block any roads. I didn't stand in the road with my arms out and be like, no, you can't pass. You know, it's like 3 Billy Goat Scruff here or something. It's,
you shall
you know,
not pass. You weren't doing that? That wasn't you?
So yeah, I do. So anyways, it was just interesting to read like the way they worded it, because it made it sound like they arrested me in Coutts, like that they caught me
And I
there.
suspected that, because that's why I was asking
Right.
you that, because
Yeah.
of the infrastructure charge. You can't do
Yes.
that from your home, and you
So
can't do that from the police station.
So they removed the infrastructure charge. So it's not there. I don't have that one. But what they
Well,
did
when you
do
got to
is
conditions,
replaced
that's what,
it
oh
with
wow,
something
that's
else
why.
that they didn't tell me about, and they didn't write it out. They wrote a number and a CC, so criminal code, to put the actual the number where it fell in under the code.
Section, subsection. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even notice it there, because it was just a number underneath a big paragraph about mischief. There was a number.
Oh, clever. So they defined mischief for you, and then it is
Yeah.
criminal code reference to something, not mischief.
Something. So I didn't even see
define
it.
that one.
Right.
Gotcha.
And they didn't tell me about it. I did not talk to a lawyer. I
Fair
didn't
enough.
re-talk to a lawyer. I wasn't told about new charges. I was only given infrastructure and mischief. And so when I left there, I thought I had a mischief charge, because that's all they disclosed to me. So my CEO looks at my paperwork and says, you have 2 charges. And I argued with her for like 5 minutes. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know what you're talking. She's like, bring your paper in front of you. See this number. This is a charge. She said, it's a weapons charge.
Jerks.
And I was
Gotcha.
like,
I understand what they
what
did
do you
there.
mean a weapons charge? Like, what does that mean? Like, that's a broad statement. Like, did I have a toaster oven that I was waving around? Like, I don't understand what you mean by a weapons charge. Like, what's the accusation? And she's like, I can't tell you. I don't know. It's just it's generic. Right?
Just charged. So no description.
Just charged. So here I am. I'm like, great. Now I don't even know what the heck my charges are. Like, I don't even.
But what is that weapon charge? Have you looked that up now? What is the?
So it's possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose.
They're protecting clay pigeons now.
But I didn't. I wasn't in possession.
That's true too.
Arrested
your house was
at the High River freaking police detachment.
Well, they may be calling possession because it was in your home. I still don't agree with the charge. I'm just trying to understand how you can even bring it.
The charge doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
I mean, so a gun in your home that's lawfully purchased and owned, how do you convert that into possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose? Like, I still don't I don't get that at all. How do you make that happen, right? Again, you do when you're trumping things up and you don't care, because the narrative is going to be the only thing that the people hear, because that's what the media is going to print for you, because you're running a propaganda campaign.
Right.
And so it doesn't really matter, right? Who cares? Deal with that. It's up to me to deal with that in court. They don't give a shit. They're done now.
Now, let me tell you the legal reason for that, because there is a legal reason for that. If you have a gun charge, it takes you to a different level when it comes to dealing with you in the CO and a bunch of stuff, because you're considered violent at that point. And a gun charge is very important. There's a whole bunch of charges that we have in Canada that has the modifier. It's called the modifier of gun. So robbery with gun, it amplifies the charge. That's what's going on here.
This particular charge, though, it doesn't say possession of a gun for a dangerous purpose. It says possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. It's
probably your voice they're charging you with.
Could be.
Your voice was a very dangerous weapon. I'm not even half kidding on that one.
No, I know.
From their perspective, that is a weapon.
Of course.
So
And
maybe
so,
you're guilty of using your voice.
well, I
in
definitely
their
was guilty of
voice.
using my voice, and they didn't like that. And I mean, this is really, since, talking to you and this is my real first social media um, presence at all since February of
Thank
2022.
you for
Before
sharing this
that,
with
I
us.
was vocal. Like I put out a mask video in August of 2021, I believe, just before they put the mandate in. I knew it was coming. I've been into, political, I wouldn't say necessarily activism. I mean, because it wasn't really like out in
Maybe expression.
expression. Yes. Since like 2015, since I heard Justin Trudeau was running, and I was like, oh, weird.
Don't like his socks, so you started to speak
Well,
up.
I wasn't just there about that. When I heard that he was running on a campaign of legalizing marijuana, I thought, wow, these guys, for as stupid as they are, they're absolutely brilliant, because they're going to activate a portion of the population who has never voted before and who will never vote again.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to get a majority.
Because they got what they wanted at that point.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And it was a brilliant scheme. It honestly was. Because I don't think he would have been elected otherwise, honestly. I really don't. I don't believe that he had the goods. He's an idiot. He's a buffoon. He is. Like, he doesn't have the, I mean, there were women that voted for him because they have great hair, which makes ladies, no wonder the men didn't want us to vote there for a while. Come on. If you're basing the merits on hair, you probably should just stay home and keep that ballot safe. Anyway.
Oh gosh, how do we replicate you like 1,000 times over?
I know many women that said they voted for him because he was a nice looking man with nice hair. Like, I hope that you understand the, consequences of your action now, ladies. I'm just going to put that out there.
That could be something that we're highlighting over the next little bit, because yes, I think a lot of people are waking up to even that now. So we'll keep that message going. So now you're talking your CEO arguing about the second charge that mysteriously showed up. It turns out you understand how it showed up now.
Right. So I was like very off guard. Like, I was knocked off guard there. I was like, okay, I don't understand this. I was never told about this. I didn't get counsel about it. But then it made sense about why I heard this judge. She says, what do you have to prove these charges? And they say, well, we have an undercover says that they witnessed her traffic guns, or deliver guns.
No, you had zero part of anything like that. So that's a
oh God, no.
Right. I just want to highlight to people that if there's an agent putting a testimony or affidavit, that's 100% incorrect.
Oh, like, couldn't be any more out in left field, honestly.
That's interesting. Please continue.
And so anyways, so I was upset because I'm like, I didn't even get counsel over this. Like, I didn't speak to a lawyer. Like, this is just a prize charge that I get on the other side of the bail hearing. Like, there was no explanation. They didn't even read out the charges when they did my bail hearing, right? So
I'm just going to predict something in the future. There's going to be a Jaclyne Act. I'm not joking. There's going to be some sort of Jaclyne Act which addresses some of this stuff. For example, completely identifying any charges, not even obscuring it. Like, there's going to be something happening here, Jaclyne. I believe that. Please continue.
Well, and so again, in that same St. Albert Times or Day or 8 St. Albert Today article that was sent to me, the one where they couldn't confirm anymore what was going on with Jerry, and they also couldn't confirm whether or not they had given me a weapons charge. So they said no, that they hadn't in that article. And this was
which article? I missed that part.
It was the St. Albert Today article. So basically, St. Albert reached out and said, hey, could we get a clarification on some things? And basically it was like, yeah, we can't really clarify, actually. We can't really commit to the original story. We're not really going to give you a new one either. We don't think we charged her with weapons, so that's what we're going to say. But they did. So they didn't even know. Like, I don't even believe that they knew. Like, it was so flying by the seat of their pants that and again, when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything, because the truth is the truth every time, and you just repeat it, right? Like, you just say it again. But when you're telling lies and you're spinning, stories and making up a narrative, and there's a lot of people involved, it's hard to remember what you said or what the story was. And it's proof of that in their actual reporting out to the public and to newspapers when they were, asking them to clarify things. They were like, I don't really know what the official story is now, right? Like, So I wasn't sure. I was like, so did they or didn't they? It's on my sheet. Right. The CO says I've got it. I didn't hear about it. The newspaper says they talked to them. They didn't give me charge. So like, I was just very confused. And at this point, I still haven't had a really an opportunity to sit down with my lawyer and have him explain to me exactly where that is coming from and how what they're utilizing to make that spin. I still don't know that. I'm having a meeting with my lawyer on August 14th, and hopefully things are going to get much clearer after that, because I have a pretrial conference coming up on September the 19th. But that whole situation went weird as well. I had talked to hired lawyer, had a few people reach out, make some suggestions. Hey, here's this guy, there's that guy. I've heard he's good. I'm looking at trying to find someone who's decently priced for myself, because my charges are way less than Jerry's. I know that his are going to either way bigger. There's way more shit to
they're doing
this
to milk your family of money.
Of course, but for me, I needed to have the best lawyer to cover Jerry's, and then me, I was looking for kind of a mediocre guy, to be honest with you. I can't afford the best guy anymore, because I got to buy the best guy for Jer. So I'm looking for someone that can do the job and do it at a reasonable price. And
Can I ask, did you end up buying that house, or are you using all your money now?
No, I'm just in
so you didn't buy that house you were looking at?
No, that all fell through. I ended up I had to completely revamp. I knew Jerry wasn't getting out. I needed to be able to look after, focus changed, finances changed very quickly. And so I needed to be able to, live somewhere that I could afford on my own. And then also be able to pay for a lawyer at the same time.
That's right. So, you now have to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to pivot and change, and everything changed from that moment. Like everything, was changing. So I was shocked when I got the news that I had this other. So that really pissed me off, because I was like, this isn't right. I didn't even get counsel. I never told me about it. I don't even know what this angle is at all that they're using here. And here's the interesting part. And I hesitate to bring this up because I don't want to give them any ideas, but I did ask them in the time. I don't understand how they can charge Jerry with what they charged him with and not charge me the same, because Jerry was never at the protest without me. And we only ever took my vehicle. Jerry's truck that they, with his guns that are always in it, because this is where they are, and he keeps them stored properly. That truck never, ever was ever south of Calgary at any of that time. It was never
That's an interesting detail.
Always took my vehicle. And you know why? They said, let's take my truck. We don't have to worry about there being anything. Your guns are in your truck. We're going down there. This is peaceful. We don't need any trouble or anything. So we'll just take my truck, because there's nothing in it. So let's just take it.
100%. So even before going there, you're like conscious about guns in your vehicle. Let's leave that at home.
Yeah,
that's a very terrorist idea there. Just so you know.
It is very terrorist. And I mean, and they know, they surveilled us. They know damn well that Jerry's truck was never there. It never showed up. They have all the pictures and the license plates and the video surveillance and they know damn well that it was my vehicle every time, all the time, that, my truck is registered to me. It's my truck. You know what I mean? Like so there's no doubt. Like, so I was like, I don't understand. You're not accusing me of these things. But you're
100% right. 100% right. Right. So just because maybe male, like, why do you think that it was different? Because it was a he, and you're 100% right. If you were, you should be a co-accomplice according to this. And I hear what you're saying. You don't want to give them any ideas.
No,
they like to file things last minute. But you're 100% right. So why did they isolate the two of you like that? Very good question. Please continue.
So, I mean, that was one of my main questions. Like, I don't understand how you're coming up with this. Like, these things, because you're surveilling, you have surveilled. And it's not like we didn't know you were there. We're very conscious of you being there. You had a huge presence. You're everywhere. I'm
going to suggest that they realized you couldn't be talked to. So they kind of cut you loose. I'm kind of suggesting that.
Very plausible. That is, what was going on. I mean, they needed, and I literally told them, I was like,
because it would have helped their narrative to have a woman involved, but you were just too strong. It probably didn't work for them. So they just cut you out. And I told them, you got cut on the editing floor. You're on the editing floor for them. You got cut out.
Yeah. And, I told them, like, basically you've picked the wrong people. Like, we're not scared. Like, we understand what's going on here. We're not scared of you in that. Like, we're scared of you in, like, we knew you were going to beat us at some point. So we were scared about having to face that, because you're relentless. Like, we see what you do out there. Like, we know that the police some of them do relish in that violent part. And so
It
ones that
sounds
they
like you
think,
believed in the legal system, though. Like, you maybe didn't believe in the
yeah,
police, but you had faith that you won't
totally.
get away with this.
Right. So I was
Okay.
like, like you didn't pick the right people. We're not weak ass people that have any sort of skeletons in our closet that we're going to have to roll over right away here and get hid under, a rock so that,
No, just a pink
this all
shotgun
goes
in your
away. It
closet.
was
That's
like,
it.
we don't have anything to hide here. We're not going to back down from you on this. Like, I
No.
don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to fight you. So good luck to you, because you're going to need it. Right? Like, that was basically my message to them, was you're going to need luck. Like, this is a crazy lunatic story that you've spun, and we're not inclined to help you do anything. So, I guess we'll see how this goes. Right? Like,
right. So at this point, you're like 17 months into the charge. No trial yet. Are you still working your way towards a trial?
yeah. So I was supposed to have a trial in August. But I had a little bit of a situation with my lawyer.
Okay.
I told him in the beginning when we first met, and a couple of the meetings we had up front, that I had two very important instructions for him. And like, I'm also probably a lawyer's client's nightmare.
Honestly, I would love to have you as a
Because
client.
I'm not interested at all in handing you money and just leaving it in your hands and you do whatever and I just
No
deal
kidding.
with whatever that is. Not happening. Okay. You're there to give me advice, but I will decide if I'm taking it or not.
Perfect.
And so I gave him clear instructions that there would be no deal. So don't even entertain it. Don't waste time entertaining deals. Not happening. So don't go there. And number two,
you don't want to pay the time for that.
Right. Got no time for that. And I'm not interested. And it's just going to aggravate me anyway. So just keep that. Even if they come to you with it, keep it to yourself. I'm not interested. And I don't need the aggravation of hearing what harebrained idea they have about how I'm going to be guilty of something that I did not do or anything else, So, and the second thing was, I want a jury trial. I'm not going in front of a appointed judge. Thanks very much, especially in Alberta, where they love to do liberal appointments in a mainly conservative province in order to keep the conservatives in check. No thanks.
Yeah.
So that was his instruction. Well, he was good about the deal thing. He did bring it up. He laughed when he said, he was like, there was a deal offer, but I'm not going to, I heard you loud and clear. I'm not going to make me mad. So we didn't even talk about it. I have no idea what it was. We didn't talk about it because
he just informed you there was one rejected. He kind of has to tell you.
Exactly. So anyway, and everything was going for what I thought was okay, was good. And then I talked to him in December and found out that, and I don't know, I don't want to be hard on him yet. Him and I need to have this next meeting before I really figure out what exactly went down. But I do understand how lawyers work. And so in my opinion, which could be corrected, so, I'm willing
You'll be
to
talking to him on the 14th.
Yeah. That he acquiesced to the Crown. The Crown decided that they wanted to group me together with two other individuals. So that, don't forget, we talk about the 4 boys, but there was 15 of us total that were arrested. Joanne person, it was her home, and her charges have been dropped. They've been stayed. Everything's cleared up with her there. But then there's another group of individuals that, I don't know Tony, Chris, and Chris. You know what I mean? I met them there, and I don't know these other people at all. I didn't even meet them. I didn't interact with them. They're kids, in my opinion. They're 20-year-olds from what I've learned.
Yeah, we call that the youth group, or the group of youth.
I
don't know who they are either, but that's how we
refer to them. I don't know these people. I couldn't even say for sure. I might have seen them in passing, we usually spend a couple hours at the saloon, have a meal with people, chit chat, talk, share the stories. And then it was okay, we were 4 hours, right? So and I went back and forth a couple of times before Jerry ever even joined onto the scene, because he was in Vancouver. So I would drive down, when I could squeeze away from work. It would be 4-hour drive. I would spend a couple hours, and then I would be driving 4 hours home. It was a big day to just drive down, but it was such a great atmosphere. And I was so proud of, the people, and it was just something that you couldn't not go and, bear witness to, right? So it was
You keep
worth it
mentioning
for
my
me.
book, everybody. That's why she
Yeah.
keeps saying bear witness. I have a book about doing exactly what she's talking about.
But it was,
Thank you, Jaclyne.
so it was worth it for that big old day. Like, it's mostly driving back and forth, but it was worth it to go and see, the looks on people's faces and the fellowship and feel the energy and all of that. So, I had gone back and forth a couple of times, and so I might have met these people, like I didn't meet them, but I might have like brushed shoulders with them,
Sure. You
standing
shared air.
outside by
I
the
shared air with
fire,
Trudeau. Doesn't mean I agree with him.
right, or having a meal, but I can't cognitively say that I don't recognize any of the names. I've never even seen these people. I don't know what they look like.
So
I
they
don't
want to
know
try you
them.
with them.
And
Is where
they've
we're headed with
hooked
this.
me to two of these people, and they've now got me in a trial with them and signed up for a judge-only trial.
Okay,
I was
wait a
like,
minute. So your lawyer had instructions jury only,
yes,
and you were at first charged separately by yourself.
yes,
Then all of a sudden, you're now lumped up with two other people, and it's
right,
a judge trial.
yes.
How now at this stage are you still on that track, or are you going to give the instruction to have yourself?
No. I
Are you
had a bit of
severed
a
from them?
No, not that I know of yet. And I don't understand how they can put us together. There's no conspiracy charge there. We all have the same charge. It's
No, they're just trying to.
5,000 and possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose.
They're
So
trying to muddy it up for the judge. So they're trying to make it look bad. You should be
100%.
asking. You could file yourself whether your lawyer helps you or not. A
Well,
motion
so
to sever.
I've learned a lot about the law and legal system and stuff through different advocacy groups, reading myself, following people. So I was very upset with him right away. I was like, what are you doing? That's not the instruction that you had.
Yeah,
Number one,
he can't consent to that without your permission. So there's a
right.
problem
So
there.
he acquiesced to the crown is basically what my
But he
perception
doesn't have that
is that,
ability. He can't.
right. Like, he did this
So we got a
without
problem there.
consulting me.
Yep.
And knowing full well, I'm sure that I would not approve of that. Like,
That's going to be part of the Jaclyne Act, that lawyers and crowns cannot
right.
put a deal in place without written consent from
Right.
the party.
Exactly.
That's got to be a law.
I think so too. I do not think that they should be able to act unilaterally on your behalf without consulting you, because I would not have agreed to that. And we could have saved the court. I'm not into wasting time and money for the taxpayer either. So we could have saved the court a lot of time and money by not making unilateral decisions without consulting me first. And so, I had a stern conversation with him about trust and, expectations.
I can imagine what that was like.
You may be the professional here, but I'm paying for a service that I expect to get. This is still an exchange. This is still commerce. And, I still have the right to a certain level of service for the money that you're charging me. So,
right.
I was not impressed. So I instructed him to file a notice of re-election for a jury trial immediately. And told him I wanted an separation, or an application for separation to be applied as well. And, there was some back and forth. I was told that I wasn't entitled to a jury trial. I was told that, there wasn't, if I process a notice of re-election, that the other folks would have the opportunity to oppose that because they were attached to me.
I don't understand how they're attached to begin with.
And that's what I said. I was like, I don't care. I'm sorry. I feel for these folks. I hope that, things go well for them. I don't wish ill on anyone that participated in any of these demonstrations at all. I don't want to see anyone, receive any sort of backlash on that, because I don't believe that it's proper and I don't believe that they deserve it. However, I don't know these people. I have no loyalty to them. I have no concern about how they're handling their stuff. It's up to them to do so. I have no contact with these people, so I cannot, even discuss it or anything like that. So I don't care. File the notice of re-election. I need to protect myself here, and I have nothing to do with these people. I don't even, I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. So how is it fair that their evidence, whatever it may be, if it's anything at all, can be used against me when we have no connection. It's like literally grabbing two random people
Well, they
out of
did the same thing with the
Toronto.
men, right? Because only two of the
Right.
men knew each other. The other three did
Right.
not. Like, they're doing that for a
So
whole bunch of people.
so I don't know. There was a bit of hubbub about the notice of reelection, but it did get filed and it did get accepted.
Okay.
I don't know. The other ones did oppose. They didn't like the idea of a jury trial, which I was like, I don't care if
I
they
don't
should be
care.
separated from
Separate
me and
them.
have a judge trial. That's
Mhm.
their right, and that's what should happen to them if that's what they want. I don't think it's a smart thing, but hey, that's we all get advice and we can choose what we want to take for that advice and how we want to handle ourselves. And I don't have the right to tell them what to do, nor do I desire. And I'm also not going to take, any direction from them either. So, like just break us apart and do your thing, So to my knowledge, that has not happened. The last court date was June 12th, actually, same day as the guys.
Same day as the guys, yeah.
Yep. And so
So,
at that,
physically different rooms, though.
yep, physically different
So
rooms.
they did that just to make sure you couldn't be at his.
Maybe.
No, they did.
Maybe. I mean, that didn't work because I did go to mine and I had a friend sit in on mine to give me the information and to
You're awesome.
my
You had
lawyer
your
for
own
me.
agent
So
there.
yeah, so we figured it out. I mean, it's not rocket science. A friend of mine
For
sat in on
many they wouldn't have done that, just so you know. You're
right.
special, Jaclyne.
So she sat in on mine for me, found out that I had a pretrial conference coming up on September 19th. And then there's a trial that is scheduled for sometime in June of next year, which is going to be interesting as well, because I am the main witness for Jerry's trial. And it takes place, it's actually scheduled, I believe the start date is May 27th and it goes into June as well to like June 28th or something. They're going to overlap, which is interesting because I'm a witness. I'm the main witness for Jerry. So I'm not sure how I'm going to be participating in two trials at the exact same time simultaneously. So that is going to be interesting in itself. But that's set up that way. They're
trying to milk your resources and they're milking your time and they're trying to distract you and have you focus on other 100%. Things. Yeah, we see this. This is this is gross.
So my lawyer asked me, because I started going from the moment that I heard when he told me about what he had agreed to without consulting me, and then I started correcting him. I started attending every court date because it was just I can't. The only way to make sure that things aren't being done funny for me to have to try to correct after the fact is to make sure I'm there, and if I have to step in and speak on my own behalf to make sure that the judge is aware of what my wishes are, then I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. So, I was attending court dates basically to keep an eye on my lawyer and the Crown as well for pulling shenanigans. So at this point, my lawyer's like wanting to know, like, do you want to be part of the pretrial conference? I was like, yeah, you bet your ass I do. Yeah, you get that. He's like, so
you should ask him, do you want to be part of the pretrial conference?
Well, yeah.
That's what you should ask him.
So, that he's like, I'll start, setting that up and getting the permission. So you have to ask permission to attend your own pretrial conference. Like,
there's something fishy about that. That's not the rule. The rule is,
and actually, and I'll teach you guys something else too that I found very disturbing about these ITOs that they're all in a big, hubbub about. The ITOs, or the information to obtain, which is a sales pitch to a judge from a policeman to get a warrant. Okay, it's a sales pitch. It's inflammatory. It's told in the most hyperbolic way. Everything is embellished because they want the signature. Okay?
Yeah, the worst case scenario that they can make up.
Worst case scenarios, yeah. So that's how they do ITOs. So when they put all these ITOs, and apparently there was like 22 of them. I mean, we only know about 10. Which
now these are for you or for the men or all together?
Well, for everything. Apparently there was like 22. There's 10 involved in Jerry's, but there was 22 of these ITOs, and they seal them. They're sealed. So you have to, as a defendant. And again, this is why this country is not innocent until proven guilty, and the onus is not on the Crown to prove you guilty. If you want access to those ITOs to see what the police said to the judge in order to arrest you, search you, seize property, listen to your phone calls, like invade your privacy, you have to pay a lawyer to file a motion and ask a judge to unseal that information. You're not entitled to it without fighting for it.
I posted that not too long ago because Jeremy McKenzie had to do an application for
Yes.
disclosure. And that's when you're kneeling in front of your
Yes.
accuser and begging them to tell you what you're accused of. That's the exact
100%.
process. You're on your
Yes.
knees, you're
Yes.
paying for it, you're begging to
Yes.
find out what they said about you.
Right.
That's
So
an
it's a pay
application
to
for
play.
disclosure.
It's actually a
Yeah.
pay to play system. So if you
Mhm.
don't have the money to pay
You're
for that
screwed.
motion, because you have to pay to file a motion with the court. So it's to me, it's extortion. You give us money, we'll give you the goods.
Well, it's also making a class of the system so the rich can have a different type of legal system
Right.
than the rest.
Absolutely. So the onus is on you and your defense to argue as to why you need to see that information in
And
order to be
not
able to
just
defend
to
yourself.
argue, it's also the onus is on you to know and find out that it exists.
It exists, exactly.
For you to do an application for disclosure, you have to tell the court what it is you're seeking. So you have to
Yes.
find that out first too.
100%.
This is 100. Yeah, this is why you're definitely guilty until proven innocent, because you have to go and find out, however you do it, that information may exist, and then you have to request it.
Right.
Yeah, you're 100%
And even
right.
when you request it, so you can request it. You should only have to request it once, and you're entitled to it. It's part of your right for your defense. So would you would think that you would go in and you would go through the process. So you request these things, and then they would show up, and your defense goes to work at making your defense. That's what you would
That's
think.
how it should be. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Allegate, and that's, by the way, how our charter says you have the right to confront your accuser. And you can't be an accuser until you made an accusation.
Right.
So without the accusation, there is no accuser that you can confront. So what are we doing here?
Right. Exactly. So we thought that would happen, right? What happened was we got dumped 300 gigabytes of garbage that was not labeled, had no headings. There was no organization to it. It was literally their surveillance shit from everything, stuff that did not pertain to anything, to any of us. And it was just basically a mountain of garbage that your lawyer has to wade through in order to find relevance to start building a defense, which is very time consuming and costly.
Expensive.
So that is just an angle to begin with of like, here's a pile of shit. Let's see if you can find anything of validity out of this. Here's your first run at it.
We're going to throw this on your desk. Isn't it? And you're looking for a needle.
So, it was very frustrating for the lawyers because it's not fun. Can you imagine if somebody just tosses, imagine you're doing somebody's taxes and they just toss a whole year's worth of receipts and garbage and invoices and stuff on your desk. And it's like, have fun. I haven't even sorted it, or I don't even know what's there.
There's junk mail in there and everything.
Right. Totally. Right. Yeah. So, it's not a fun process for the lawyers to have to deal with to begin with. So it automatically.
And it's not fun for them also from the client relationship, because they have to break that news to you that we need X amount of hours and all this money.
And X amount of staff and yeah. And so, and then to comb through all of that and figure out that there's nothing in there. There's nothing of validity. We're missing this, and this. Like for Jerry's lawyer, he filed before court in June, he filed an application for 44 missing items of disclosure. He's yet to receive any of those, FYI. And last week, he filed another 15-page document for more requests that he had found. Okay, so we have not even begun to receive disclosure.
But the POEC received all the information they needed in order to clear the government.
Well, or did they receive anything at all? Because this is all privy information. I mean,
that's
they
kind of
sent a blank page that said, these guys are the fall guys, do your job. Congratulations. You get a big blue check mark, FYI, from all your buddies at the HOC. So when you don't have to tell you when it's all in secret, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist.
True.
If you can't share it and you can't prove it, then it doesn't exist to me. It's not reality, and I'm not going to accept that. So
you're one
prove it
person.
or go away, right? Prove
Are you
it or
coming
go
to court
away.
Today?
No, I'm done with court. I'm not allowed to be at court. I'm a witness. So I was excused on the 26th or 7th or whatever it was. The judge made the comment at that time that, at this point, we're getting into the weeds of things. And so if you are if you are a witness and you know that, or if you're expected you're going to be a witness, or if you could possibly be called as a witness, this is the time for you to vacate, and you won't be allowed back until we call you to give your testimony.
Another
Once you've
mental
given your
game.
testimony, now you can you can participate after that. And the reason why is because there's things that you could possibly
Yeah, we
hear,
get the
whatever.
reason why.
Yeah.
Excluding witnesses is a normal process, but
It's normal. And I do
putting
it.
a wife and a husband's trial together, like same
Yeah.
dates, isn't normal. And
it's,
doing it in such a way that you can't be there for your husband isn't normal.
Right. And like we wouldn't, like again, I'm the main witness for Jerry, so it's we don't want to do anything to dilute my testimony, and me being there, like, because I mean, I wouldn't be in trouble for staying, but at that point the judge can go, hey, you were here for everything,
your credibility's
gone, right? And so I would never want to do that. That's very important that I'm witness for Jerry. So
I am so mad right now that they're doing this to you, because you can't even be in the room while your husband's having his trial. That is really upsetting me right now.
Well, and it's upsetting to me as well, because I don't get to see him regardless. So I did pop in yesterday. I asked permission. I talked to his lawyer and said, hey, like, I know today's not exactly, stuff that's got anything to do with the case, like in the details of things that maybe I haven't heard or whatever, that this is more of a Crown in the police situation. So would it be okay if I came? And he was like, I wish I could say yes, but technically you've already been excused for a witness. So let's just follow, the protocol. He's like, I'll debrief you. I'll let you know everything, you'll
debrief you
get
too.
to know. Right. And so, and of course I have lots of people inside that are going to keep me up to date. And so, I respect that, and I respect that process. And so I told him, like, hey, I'm going to sneak in for 30 seconds just for when Jared comes through the door, so I can, wave to him, blow him a kiss, see his face, because it's the last time that I'm going to see his face in person in real life until we resolve this. I will not be able to see him again. Now, yesterday was the last time.
So let's talk about that. Are you not allowed to go to visit him?
No.
You're allowed to phone him, text him, but you can't do it in person.
Phone and text, but I'm not allowed to visit him. No,
because phone and text are completely recorded and stuff, so we know that. And texts are checked before they were actually passed on. There's a little approved thing at the bottom of them.
Yes. Yeah. So the Calgary remand.
You haven't hugged your husband since February 14th.
No. And I've only seen his face a few times. I did get one visit with him. 45-minute visit in July 23rd of last year, which we had to jump through some hoops for. And so here's the situation. So we get, so I'll give you some more goods that you can have as well.
You're stronger than I am, Jaclyne. This is horrible.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's how we trick ourselves, Jared and I, with this situation. When Jerry and I first got together, he worked remotely. He worked for Imperial up in Fort McMurray. And so he was always on shift work. So he usually, like, he would do, sometimes it'd be 2 weeks on, a week off, or 10 days on, 4 days off. So, we had a long distance relationship in the beginning because he worked away at camp. So we kind of trick ourselves. We were used to having physical absence, but still being connected. So we just trick ourselves into, it's like he's away at camp. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just working.
You have your way to cope with the distance.
You do. Yeah. So, and because we had that experience in the beginning part of our relationship, kind of set us up for this. Like, we didn't know that at the time, but it built.
So maybe this is why God chose you guys, because he knew you were strong enough for this, and you guys could take this burden on for us.
Exactly. And so, yes, it's devastating. Trust me, it's devastating. Yesterday was a very emotional day for me. I know there was a lot of drama and people were caught up in other things, but I was going through the emotions of, this is the last time I get to see his face until I can bring him home.
No, Jaclyne, I want to help. I want to do a whole bunch for you. I want to just hug you and then make this right for you. You are a wonderful person.
But again, like I said, they chose the wrong people, because
God chose the right people. God chose the right people.
Right. God chose the right people. They chose the right people too, I guess. I say the wrong people for what they want the outcome to be, but the right people for the way that this needs to go. And they hoped that this would break us. And I know it would a lot of couples. I know that this would be very hard on a lot of people. And it's not that it's not hard on us. It is. But we have the ability to compartmentalize this and to not let it override the ultimate mission here, which is justice and to keep this country intact. You cannot have a properly functioning society and country that has no rule of law. You can't. And it doesn't matter who's overriding that. The law is not above the law. and that's the scariest time ever, is when the law operates as though it's above the law.
It's never supposed to be above the people. We're supposed to be governed by it. This is a communal agreement that we all have to be a society.
Right.
It's not supposed to break people.
Right. And so we're not letting it break us. You know,
the next revolution may not be built on blood. It might be built on tears, because we're all breaking over this. Our tears are coming out because of the pain, but we might have a new revolution based on tears. We got to fix this. This is horrible. This is torture.
You know, these things are designed to break you. They are designed. They have, the government has two strategies: bankrupt you and break you mentally. Yeah. And both at the same time, if they can. They're okay with that.
So you take that deal. So they say we have our conviction and we were righteous all along. That's what they're doing here.
Right. And I mean, the Canadian system is being questioned around the world too. I've read an article recently about the way our system works, which is, you know, typically it's hard to find a lawyer with trial experience in this country. And that's weird. And you know why that happens is because lawyers
are played out.
Well, and they teach you that because they teach you that's the only way they can make money. There's no money in trial. We don't want to actually have to earn.
Well, I'm going to say no. That's not really. I want to say I'm going to just dispel that narrative a little bit, because they will absolutely take trial money, and they charge a lot of money for trial.
Well, they take it, but if they don't think that you were good for it, because they have the ability to access
that's
your finances.
True. Yeah,
the bar and the financial system are directly connected, so they can look into your finances and know what you're liquid, what you have for assets, and what the most amount of money is that they can extract from you.
Did you know?
Can use that to create your retainer fee.
Did you know that retainers, when they're held in trust, they collect interest that goes to the Law Society?
Yes, exactly. Yes, they're making it.
So
yes,
people don't know that. So
it's
your lawyer holding your money as a retainer. Correct.
Yes, it's a revenue generating system.
And the lawyer doesn't even touch it. It's a deal with the banks. The banks actually forward the interest to the Law Society.
Right.
People don't know that. We learn that.
To be able to have access to the financials, right? I mean, there's going to be a little give and take, right? For all these entities to work back and forth with each other. So, yes, it's the trying to bankrupt you. You know, that's their primary. And again, I think that's one of the big. They're running into a lot of issues with the situation now, and the reason being is that they thought that everybody was going to run away from us, which it happened. It did at the beginning. Everybody ran away. They didn't think that we had money to be able to look after ourselves and the cost of the lawyers, which, you know, we are fundraising and we are, you know, utilizing every revenue stream that we can possibly use, and we're getting it done.
Focus on the men for that one.
Yep. I think they thought that they would break them mentally because they are everyday regular guys that don't have, you know, criminal histories. They're not used to this. There's nothing normal about this for them. So I'm sure they thought that they could put them into major discomfort and have them, you know, acquiesce and say, you know, I'll agree to whatever. Just let me the hell out of here.
Or one turn on the others, or that kind of stuff too.
Right. So, I mean, that
hasn't happened, just to be clear for everybody to know. They've turned down all deals because they're innocent.
Right. Right. So they've gone through their box of tricks, basically. You know, they've kind of exhausted all of that at this point. And, you know, all the stuff of like throwing Jerry and segregation because there's no other place to put him. Like, these aren't by mistake things. These aren't, I don't have any other choice. You know, these are just,
you have to go pay cash just to put money on his account. You can't even use the online thing for Jerry. Just Jerry.
No. Right.
Everybody else we can do that with. Just Jerry, we can't. You have
just
to go
Jerry.
pay cash on.
Yeah, and it's just
you have
because
to physically go there.
Yeah, and the remand center in Calgary has the ability to turn permissions on and off on that app. I called Synergy and asked them. I was like, "Why is this happening?" Well, we don't know. We don't have control over that. The facility has control over that.
And to give people context of what we're talking about, you have to put money onto their account so you can call them and text them. There's no free anything.
Right.
And this is one of the things you have to do. So you have to physically go there. And this is Calgary he's in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to go to Calgary just to give them
I have
cash.
to drive to Calgary to put money on his canteen and his phone.
Just so you can talk to him.
Just so I can talk to him.
And he can have some luxuries in there.
You know, imagine too, I'm right there. I know he's in this building somewhere. He's close by, but I'm not allowed to see him.
Torture is correct. Rocky TV.
They'll let me through the front door to take my money. But that's as far as it goes for me. I'm not allowed any further. This is where it stops. Just deposit your money here and there's the door again, right? Like, so again, I had my conditions removed because I wasn't having it, but he hadn't had the opportunity to be in front of a judge at this point to even discuss terms of release, let alone conditions. But they're able to put conditions on you internally without releasing you. So they had conditions on him against me. So we didn't even talk for the first like 6 to 8 weeks that he was incarcerated because he wasn't allowed to call me. So there was very little contact. We were having to utilize our friends in order to, you know, figure out what was needed, what needed to be done. I mean, he took his contact lenses. He was like, Jerry is almost blind without his glasses. Like he's got the old Coke bottles. He's got astigmatism and he doesn't see well. They took his contact lenses and, you know, we couldn't get glasses into him. He was literally blind when they let him out into the general, you know, area or whatever. He couldn't even see the people around him. He was scared to death. Honestly, he was scared to death. He didn't know who these people were. He knew that he was in the maximum security wing. He knew that the people in there were accused of heinous things. He was scared. Like I was scared. So they just did, like in the beginning, they did a lot of shit to torture and to try to break.
And still are.
And like the first bail hearing for Jerry, which I thought would be the next day after mine was done. I'd never dreamed that it wouldn't be until March the 2nd was the first bail hearing.
That's like 3 weeks after the arrest.
Yeah. And so they go into that bail hearing, all 4 of them into the bail hearing, because we understand now that they're being charged together. I've retained a lawyer at this point. Jerry's lawyer, the original, is Greg Dunn, is his lawyer. Fantastic guy, great guy.
Still there?
He's still there. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's a correction that we were making because I think I said it was Tony's lawyer who's original. So it's
no, Jerry's lawyer is the original one. He's been there since the day I first retained him. So he messaged me from the courtroom at the original bail hearing, and he said, I hate to do this, but I think we need to abort this mission. And I said, why? Like, what's going on? And he said, Chris Lysek just went up first, and the judge took his bail package, turned it over on his desk, and said, I wouldn't give you bail on any conditions. That was the bail process. So he said, I think we better get out of here. This guy's politically motivated, right? Like he drank the Kool-Aid. We can't chance this. Like we better regroup. And so I said, oh, definitely. Okay. 100%. We can't, you're right. Like, and I
think that's probably the first time in this entire timeline that there is a conspiracy now going on with these guys because they're working together to try and figure out how to deal with this. So
they're lawyers, like, and they're
Correct.
Able to, like, because it's
not a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. I just mean they're working together to try and deal with this.
So we did. We said, we adjourned. We said, give us another date, hoping to get a different judge, right? Honestly, like that was, we couldn't take that chance. We saw what was happening. That's got to break the spirit right there going, we're not getting anything out of this fairly right now. Oh my gosh, what are we up against? And then we learned after the fact, I mean, Danielle has told us here on this show as well that, what happened then right immediately with Lysek and his lawyer then convinced him, I guess, that he should waive his preliminary hearing and just get right on to trial immediately, that would clear things up faster.
Typically,
and in the meantime, the Crown is already proposing direct indictments to the justice minister for sign off, and they did get them, which automatically waives the preliminary hearings. You don't get one with the direct indictment. So that was, all of that was being removed at the moment. And I mean, in hindsight, at the time as well, but in hindsight, I mean, we could tell what they were doing here. The more that they could refuse to put evidence, because they don't have evidence, out onto the table, the longer they could delay the process, which would give them their 1 year to get their POEC done, to frame them, pat themselves on the back, and memory hold them to do whatever they were going to do with them after the fact. But at this point, they needed to stick to their story and their narrative and get through the POEC without them having a trial or having any sort of a judge to examine. Because the reality is, in my opinion, had we had a preliminary, this would have been all over.
Actually, in my opinion, if there was media, this could have been all over too.
Right. But a preliminary is very important because the defense has to throw their cards on the table, and the judge actually gets to decide what's admissible and what's inadmissible, and whether there's enough.
The prosecutor.
The prosecutor. Yes, the prosecutor has to throw their stuff on the table, and the judge gets to decide what's admissible and inadmissible, and if there's enough even to go to trial with. Right. Like at that point, it's the judge's discretion to say, maybe we better not move forward, or you got enough. We'll see you, in court, right? So we didn't get that process, and it was very clear about why we weren't getting that, because the delay needed to be made in order for them to get the POEC.
Do you think they're trying to delay all the way to the Jordan decision?
Whether they are trying to or not, because they did all that big delay. Because I mean, a 1 year delay, which is what that caused. In reality, because of course they had COVID back up in the courts, they were just getting, so I mean, getting court time and all of that. So they were already kind of up against it, and even being able to get access. I mean, you have 4 lawyers, 4 different schedules, a crown, different schedules, to get everybody to be able to be in the same place at the same time, and organize that with the limited availability for the court in itself, because of backups, because of COVID, was already going to create a delay to begin with. So every delay that they make, and they've made along the way, is getting us closer and closer to Jordan. Like Jerry qualifies for Jordan August of next year.
Right. And we'll tell people what Jordan is. Jordan was a decision that after 30 months, you're set, no matter, you're freed. Everything's dropped and you're gone.
Yeah. So they have 30. So if it's federal charges, they have 30 months from the date of your charges, less any adjournments on your behalf.
Correct. It's federal and indictable charges. So it can also be criminal indictable. Those fall under 30. Everything else is 30 months to process,
convict or not convict, sentence, the whole 9 yards. And if you can't get it done in that time frame, then you have to give it up.
It's dropped.
It's 18 months for provincial, 30
and
for
summary.
federal. Yeah.
So summary or lesser charges are criminal, and then indictable are serious criminal. So that's 30 for indictable, summary 18, provincial 18, federal 30. That's how that works. And just to make everybody clear, that's 2.5 years the government can hold you without trial. That's what that says.
Right. And interesting enough, my charges were downgraded to provincial at one point in time. And actually, like we were creeping up on 18 months when having my original trial with the judge in August. So had there been any delays or adjournments, like my lawyer, that's what his plan was like by September, if there's no September trial time and they have to delay it to October, we file Jordan. But I was like, no. I don't like, this is a very limp strategy. I'm not interested in getting off in a technicality here.
Right.
Because I want my jury trial. Right. So now that I've made that notice of re-election and got granted the jury trial, I've upgraded back to King's Bench again. I'm now in King's Bench court. So guess what? I'm pretty sure I'm back to I'm converted to 30-month Jordan from 18 where I was before.
Right.
So again, they could just change these things. It's the charges didn't change. Only thing that changed was my request to have a jury trial over a judge trial. So there's screwery going on there too.
And we heard from James Sowery that he's also had federal charges, not provincial charges. And it was a federal jury.
Yes.
And they convicted him.
So yeah. So it's, they're pivoting and using, different strategies in order to be able to drag it out further without, having to shut this down. So anyway, these delays that were happening, I mean, and there was a lot of confusion. Even Jerry had confusion. It took a lot to explain to him that the reason he was denied bail was for political reasons, that there was no good reason for it. And here's the thing: there's no publication ban on why they denied bail. Okay, I'll tell you right now why they denied bail. Right. There's no publication ban. They you weren't allowed physically in the room for the bail hearing, but you could dial in and listen. I sat in the parking lot in front of the courthouse with the dial in and listened to every word that woman said. And she said she was very good about covering her ass, actually. It's very interesting the way she did it. But primary conditions are the most important. And the primary means that you're not a flight risk, meaning you have roots in the community. There's reason to believe that you're going to stick around to show up at court. You have a job to go to. You have a residence. You have a surety. You have bail money. And you haven't had any previous convictions. There's no history there, right?
Especially with violence. Yeah.
Right. So Jerry met all of those conditions. And she acknowledged that he met all the primary conditions. He had everything set up properly. At the second bail hearing, we even offered the ankle monitor bracelet, had it prepaid for and, ready to set up and install. So that was like that's the heaviest package. You can't ask for
anymore. You put a bow on it and you handed it to him and said, okay, let's just have some justice.
Right. So we'll do we'll do the maximum that you hear. We'll make it so you don't argue with us. There's nothing more you can add to this package. Here you go. Right. So she acknowledged that he met all the primary conditions. Then she went to secondary treachery grounds, which are basically open for her interpretation. And she used the words, which I found was honestly so aggravating to me to hear these people talk to you like you're an absolute idiot. And again, I get offended by them treating us like we're stupid. Okay. Some of us aren't educated on certain topics, and that's fine. That doesn't mean you don't have the ability to look it up and understand. But she said her exact words were, although circumstantial, the Crown has a fairly strong case. Have you ever heard the words strong and circumstantial used in the same sentence when it comes to
law? That's a legal oxymoron. No.
Exactly.
That's exactly the wrong way.
Exactly. And she said, because of the nature of the charges, so because they're so scary.
Exactly.
We need to uphold the confidence of the public in the system. And because I believe, even though there's nothing to uphold this belief,
and no challenges to it yet,
that if police officers were to check on these gentlemen to make sure that they were following their release conditions, that they would harm them.
Oh my gosh.
There's no history of violence. There's no criminal records. There's nothing to lead her to that assumption at all.
Other than what was written in the documents.
Other what was written in ITOs, and that is it.
And I think that's exactly what she's responding to.
And because it's open to her interpretation, right? Our laws are vague. It leaves way too much up to the discretionary of appointed judges who take an oath to the Crown and not to the people.
Correct. And to keep secrets. And like you mentioned earlier, the oath has the secrets in there.
So, the reasoning for the denial is garbage. It doesn't, basically what she didn't say out loud is, the government does not want me to release these folks, and so I'm not going to do it.
Or
you just had to read between her lines. She did a great job at covering her ass while also doing the bidding of politicians without outwardly saying it.
She also might have been saying out loud, I am not going to be responsible for the damage these men do. I believe they're going to do damage. I don't want to be responsible for that. Because she really believes that. Or
whether she does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. She doesn't have
to. But I think you're right. It's either she's feeling the pressure or she's delusional or both. Both of those could be happening at the same time.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have to remember, and I hate using the word conspiracy theorists. It's ridiculous. There's patterns. There's coincidences that are not coincidences.
You're supposed to ask questions.
You are, absolutely. But the reality is that the inside people of the system, these bureaucrats, they are bigger conspiracy theorists than we are out here.
No kidding.
They buy things hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, Hong Kong
Right.
means HH, which means blah Hitler, right? Remember where
Right.
that's
Like where
you have to be a
again.
creative person for that one.
So I mean, hyperbolic, and almost emotional, reactions, which there's
Remember,
no there's no
don't harm your
room in the
grandma. You're
court
gonna
for
kill grandma.
exaggeration. There's no room in the
Well,
court
we
for
got yelled at
emotion.
yesterday. It's supposed to be a somber place. That's what we got yelled at because people said, "I love you." So the
Yes.
judge yelled at everybody, said, "Stop that! It's supposed to be a somber place. We got to take this
Yeah.
seriously."
Yeah.
Yet this
Yeah.
shenanigans happened.
Right.
And to let everybody know that wasn't there, that's exactly what happened. Jerry came out and says, "I love you guys," and then like 5 or 6 people, not loudly, not screaming, said, "Love you, Jerry," and we all got scolded and threatened to be thrown out for that.
Yeah.
That wasn't reported, but that's exactly what happened.
No.
I was there
Right.
for that.
Right. And so, yeah, that was the reason. That was the reason why that she turned down his bail. That's the exact reason. Those were
Yeah,
that's
I
word for word.
understand.
And I
And
mean, and I mean
Rolo did
word
the
for
same
word,
thing. Rolo would do the same thing.
although circumstantial, strong case. It's like, what am I listening to right now? Like, who in their right mind inside this courthouse just listened to that, especially the trained ones, and didn't go, what?
You added the caveat though, in their right mind. So that's a group of
Yes,
people who are not in their right mind that might be working on this.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
But Jaclyne, I
yeah.
do have to run to the court because I do want to get more
Oh,
information
yes. What
from
time
you.
is it? Oh, it's 8:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah. We're
we're just
getting
probably starting at
2.5
9.
hours. Yeah,
Yes.
we've been doing great. You coming back Friday? We won't continue this
Um,
there, but maybe just to see you.
yeah, we'll see. I got to get some work done here this week. I've been a bit distracted, which is
I
easy
appreciate your time.
to happen, and I need to get some things done. So I'm not exactly sure what my schedule is going to look like on Friday, but I mean, I'll definitely be back. We can give you an update after I have my meeting with my lawyer on August 14th and see kind of where we're headed from there.
Yeah, we would love that, please.
Yeah.
And
again,
if anything else happens now, we also bring it back to, like, if there's some good news this week and stuff, we'll all be back.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I know that, like, I'm a realist. Jerry's more of the optimistic guy.
Well, he calls me J Dog now. I'm
Yes,
J
he
Dog to
does.
him.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he's
everything.
a
Hello, J Dog.
nickname.
Take care, J Dog.
Yeah.
I call him J
Yeah.
Unit, just so you know. He's J Unit now, not G Unit, but J Unit.
Yeah, he's obviously he's in a different. It's more important for him, honestly, to maintain a positive outlook and a certain mindset. For myself, I kind of
he has
more
such
of
a nice presence too, by the way.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. He keeps me, in check that way too sometimes, because I am a realist and I don't expect miracles here, and I do expect these people to double down. I take them for who and what they are, and who they show us that they are, and what their history is, what their track record is. I don't expect things. You can basically know what people are going to do and how they're going to act based on how they've always acted and what they've done. So I fully expect these people to double down. We saw that with the request of the full publication ban. Now that there's some tarnishment on their side of the aisle.
Well, there wasn't a full publication ban. So they wanted a publication ban on the contents of the envelope and the decision of that from the judge. So those 2 items.
Yes.
I don't want people saying that there's a full ban of all of a sudden.
But what I understand, they would like it to be a lot stricter than that, actually. So when I heard, they are looking like they know about your show, Jason, they don't like it.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a viewer, but I have seen no comments from them yet. So
right. So, they aren't liking that this story is getting out, that they're being under the microscope at this point. And now, especially now that there's misconduct, I just want to make a quick note. I'll get you off here, but I looked up last night because this is what I do. I learn things in the courtroom, and if I don't understand them, then I research them so I understand what they're saying, because it's great to bear witness, but it's also good to understand what you're bearing witness to. So,
that's in the book, by the way. That's in the book.
Yeah. So some of the terms that were brought out to me yesterday from the people inside were crime fraud, as well as innocence or stake of innocence, or innocence of stake at stake. So if you go to criminalnotebook.ca, Actually, if you just Google crime fraud, it's the first one that comes up. Click on it.
we
You'll get
had
to
it on the show
see
yesterday.
what crime fraud is, the exception to the rule, how it applies, and what innocence of stake is. And you'll understand very quickly what they're talking about. And it's in layman's terms. It's not hard to understand. I encourage people.
You want to summarize for us? So what does crime fraud mean?
So crime fraud is basically when either a lawyer helps a defendant commit a crime, basically, or coaches them on how to utilize the law to get around.
So it's not just the defendant. You're right. From the lawyer, it's from the lawyer counsels anybody to break the law.
Exactly, to break a law, or how to do it, basically, or or how to get around the law as well. Right. And then also too, the exception to those rules are when a defendant has reason to believe that that took place and that it creates a reasonable doubt, or that or has a possibility to create a reasonable doubt, or that there is proof of reasonable doubt within that information. And actually what it says there is that when the defendant argues that and in our case, we saw the unredacted information. I don't know what it is, but my lawyer knows exactly
not even the men
what
know,
it is.
From my understanding.
So it's not a guess about that it might possibly be there. It's saying, we see it, it's there, now give us the rest.
And we heard that argument yesterday, by the way. Great arguments from the defense.
Absolutely. So in that case, what it says in this criminalnotebook.ca, it says that in that case, when it's known that there's information there that will cause reasonable doubt, that a judge should unseal and review the information. That's what he should do. So FYI,
we should be seeing
that's what it says in law. So we'll see what happens. But
and then the other one, the innocence one that you talked about. Let's talk about that one now.
So innocence at stake. So it has a couple of different thresholds, but again, that's where, so there's two different thresholds. The one is where you believe possibly that there is something there that can create reasonable doubt, or the second one is there's something there. And obviously the second one carries more weight than the first one. But
now, taking those two definitions, it could be a lie to get the warrant.
Exactly.
When you take those two definitions,
it could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. I don't even care to guess what it is. It doesn't matter to me what it is.
No, but those terms are brought up, and that's where we're talking.
I trust that the lawyers know what they're talking about, and they're very disturbed by what they saw.
I also want to highlight two things because people didn't notice yesterday. The Law Society is involved, but here's how they're involved. When lawyers find misconduct on other lawyers, what they have to do is they have to go to the Law Society, who has this multi-step process that they have to go to. You have to do this notice. You have to file this. It has to be done this way. You have to be damn sure about it before you do this. There's this process that the Law Society is taking them through. That's happening in this case. And the defense has done a really, really, really good job on doing everything by the book, and they're doing it with the Law Society. I want people to understand how serious this really is. This is what's going on, and this is what we saw yesterday.
And I want to give credit to the lawyers for even taking this avenue, because I'm going to tell you what.
They put their whole career, by the way. When you do this with Law Society, if they're wrong, they lose their license. This is basically what's happening here.
And not just that, but I mean, this is a little club, right? Like the Bar Association is a club.
Absolutely.
The Law Association is a club.
Ask Donald what happens when you go against the club. Ask Donald. He got 63 days in solitary because he was going against the corruption of his colleagues. Same thing in the law world, guys. People are scared to do this.
So honestly, we can't thank the lawyers enough for being willing to compromise themselves to do the right thing. That's how you know that.
Well, I don't think they're compromising. They know that they're good.
But I mean, compromising themselves as far as their peers, like their peers, like you're expected to make this group look good. Like there's so much weight on the public interest about trusting the system. So
and this is in my book because this is what stops people.
Yeah, they use that as a tactic to be like, you know what you're doing here, right? What if the people were to lose interest because you brought this up? Like it's a manipulation tactic to try to keep people from doing the right thing.
I went through the training, and you're not wrong.
And and so like again, I cannot say enough and say how much we appreciate these men and women for not caving to the peer pressure of their group, but doing what's right and doing right by the people who are paying them astronomical prices to do them justice. And
Right.
it's getting done. It's happening.
Right.
So I know that there's a distrust out there with lawyers, and it's a healthy one. I encourage you to have it. But again, like I've said before, you can't discredit a whole group of people over the actions of the bad ones, but you
Right.
have to do your job and your due diligence to vet, to make sure you've got one of the good ones. And I'm telling you what, the bad ones are hiding in, they're the first ones a lot of the time to step up.
Right. Right. You're not wrong. We have one good one left from the originals. The rest are gone at this point. I don't think you're wrong on that assessment at all.
You got to be vigilant. Vigilance is very important in these situations, because there are good people out there that can help you, but you're going to have to sift through the weeds to find them. They're not the cream rising to the top. They are the cream, but they're just not rising to the top.
Spoiled cream.
The spoiled cream, the curds. They're the
there you go.
They're the sour cream, you know.
That's a good way to look at it.
You have to be vigilant, and you have to vet. It's very, very, very important. Like, and I mean, this is my advice based on my experience. If you go through this, reach out to people who've been there before you, and, you know, don't take all advice with a grain of salt. Be willing to look into it all. Understand you don't have to act on all of it. It's overwhelming. Some people mean really well and also just give terrible advice. And so you have to be like, I really appreciate that you care, but I'm not going to do that. And, you know, we're going to move past that. You know what I mean? You have to be your own biggest champion. It's got to be you. And when you do that, other people will be there to support you anyway. But you have to be, what's the saying? You got to self-rescue. No one's coming to save you. So, you know, it's important to know and understand, and to reach out to people who have been there before you that can maybe offer, you know, like, hey, I messed up this way. Don't do that. You know, learn from my mistakes so that it can save you time and money. So, you know, we're learning the hard way through this process, but we're learning. And that is, you know, no education goes wasted. That's another quote that I like. And so, you know, I don't wish this on anybody. Please don't do anything dumb out there to get yourselves in trouble. Watch your mouths. Don't say things out of haste. Unfortunately, we don't live in a country where you have free speech and freedom of expression.
You don't even have the ability to
just
joke
because it's written on a piece of paper somewhere where they like to refer to it when it's convenient for them. Please think about what's going to come out of your mouths. Private or public or otherwise, please, please, please just take my word on that. And, you know, the best way to be able to stand up for yourself is if you're not confined to a cell somewhere. Okay. So just please use your discretion and be careful and cautious, and understand that we live in a country of laws that are vague and one-sided and not meant to protect you and I, but to protect the establishment. So operate that way. Okay. Maybe we'll get this country free someday, but it's not right now. And it never has been. And so just be careful. I'm not saying this because I want people to stop standing up for themselves or to self-censor, but be aware of your actual circumstance. Okay. I tested my rights a year and a half ago, and I found out that they're very limited. I would call them privileges, actually, instead of rights here in this country.
That's what I call it.
And it's sad and it's disappointing, but it is a reality that we have to accept, because if we can accept it and acknowledge it, then we don't know where to affect the change. And that change is where we need to affect first. And so just accept where we are. And
to be clear, you're saying accept because it's the way it is, but you don't mean agree. You just mean accept.
I don't mean agree. Oh God, no. I just mean accept that that's what the situation is. Like, I don't agree with it at all. I'll tell you what, I hate it. It's terrible. It's not what we thought what we had. We've been lied to. And that's why we can get ourselves in trouble, because we act in a way that they've taught us to, but they're there with the hammer and they have the ability to bring the hammer down. And so we have to be careful not to misstep.
We have to be very careful not to give them something to work with, especially those of us who really do want change in this country and we're willing to fight for it. And when I say fight, I mean go through the gamut of being discredited and tortured and called down, and they try to ostracize you and they try to bankrupt you. Like, that's the fight. You have to be willing to go through. You have to be willing to give things up. You got to be willing to let go of your consumerism. You have to be willing to let go of your worldly possessions. It's not about the things that you have. It's about the way you're able to live. And who cares if you have all of these fancy things around you and you're dead up to your ears for all of them, if you can't even go out and speak about how you want to enjoy your life because there's fear of reprisal. It doesn't matter. So there's sacrifice in change. So be willing to sacrifice. And don't be stupid when you're doing that, though. Don't be stupid. Use your heads. Please use your heads. Because we need as many people on this side of the bars as possible to get these changes that we need. And I'll be the first one to say, I say it in every place that I can, and I truly believe this, we need a new constitution, one for, of, and by the people that we agree to, that limits the government and not the other way around, where we can have representation, because we don't have it. They are members of parliament. They are members of legislative assembly. Please tell me in those titles where the word representative is. It's not. So,
and not
again,
commons either.
We have to accept where we're at so that we can focus in on what needs changing to make it better for all of us. We deserve that as Canadians. We deserve that as humans. And, my intention is that, I'm a young woman. I have a lot of time left here on this earth. And so, come hell or high water, I will continue to encourage that we, work together to make the changes happen that give us the ability to be happy, free, prosperous people in this absolutely abundant, rich, beautiful country that God gave to us and that we were born into. We deserve it. We're not entitled to it, though. That's why we have to fight for it. But we deserve it. You deserve it. I deserve it. Jerry deserves it. His kids deserve it. Your kids deserve it. Even these assholes that are against us, they deserve it. They just don't know.
Right. We will fight for their rights too. Yes.
Exactly. So
it's for everybody.
I encourage people to just think about how you want to live and compare that to the way that you're able to live now, and to have a clear vision so that you have something that you're clearly focused in on, and that you don't have to know how to get there. I believe that God shows you the way, but you need to have a clear vision and a clear goal of where you're going. And when you do that and you set your mind to it, the destination doesn't matter. There'll be a map. There will be a map. You don't need all the answers. You just have to know what you want.
And you have your heart pure too. And yours is definitely very pure.
Exactly.
Now I have one last question, because I'm not joking. So many of the chat has asked this. I know you're focused on Jerry and yourself at this point, and that's exactly where you need to be focused. However, could we see your name on a ballot in the future?
Possibly, again, with the right goal in mind. The way I see this system, how it's structured and designed right now, I won't operate within it. I want nothing to do with it. However, I see the way that it's structured and designed, meaning I believe the only true way to change it or to restructure it is to be in the power seat that allows you to have the autonomy to do so. Right. But I don't believe that there is a way to do that through any parties. I think the parties are the catch-all. And so I believe that you would need a group of independents that were willing to collaborate as far as an ultimate goal of constitutional change, and but work independently with the constituents that also want to see that as well, which I think there's a lot of education that needs to take place to the people about what the Constitution is right now. The fact that you're not mentioned in it, you can't have a democracy, which a democracy is a as a government operated by the people when you're not even mentioned in your founding paperwork. People like notice the words that they repeat over and over and over to you. Those are the ones that they're trying to brainwash you with. How many times have you heard the word democracy in the last 3 years? Okay, they realize that the illusion is fading. People are understanding that we don't live in a democracy. It's a constitutional monarch, which is an effective elected dictatorship. And so they need you to believe that you're in a democracy in order to believe you have any power, in order to not have you in a like, whoa, wait a minute. And just denounce the system as it is, because it doesn't, you're not involved. The only involvement you have is to mark a check mark on a ballot, and you're done. That's it. So you don't have a democracy when the only democratic apparatus within it is that you get to vote. They vote in China, FYI. They vote in Russia. Are they democracies? No. Okay. So, it's important to understand that, you need a collectivized group of people who all have the same goal, and that the people are educated on that goal and have agreement, because you can't trudge forward without the people behind you. They have to be in agreement. There has to be the will of the people. So we have to start with education on what we are today. We have to educate on what the possibilities of what we would like to be. And I think a constitutional republic, each province needs their own constitution. So we have rules of governance, because right now we don't have any, which gives carte blanche to these people at the provincial level. Unless somebody federally doesn't want them to do it, then they send in the lieutenant governor general to override them, and it defaults back to federal, because there is no legislation to work with to begin with. So I think we need constitutional republic where each province has their own constitution, which makes them independent, other than the federal policies, which really to me are just national security.
Right.
That's about it. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm going to suggest in the future there might be one party that will help fix this country, and that will be the Republican Party of Canada. To be a Republican Party of Canada, we need to be a republic first.
Yes.
That might be a solution.
Yeah. But I think people need to be educated on those options so that they understand what they are. I think we could have more people participate and get behind some of these goals and ideas once they understand what they are. So you have to understand what you're not, in order to be able to know what you want to be and what you are and where you want to go. So I think it really does start with education to the people, so that they can make choices, right? I mean, again, I'm not here to dictate to anybody. I do not want to be dictated to. So my idea is my idea. I think it's a good one, but it would be important for the majority of people within the ridings of independence that also shared my idea, that they agreed with that too. Otherwise, we wouldn't be representing the people. And isn't that what we're trying to get to? A representation of the people. So you need education first in order to give them their options, so that they can choose what they really want. And then they push you forward to tell the government what they want, right? Then you're representing them, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's okay to give them some guidance on where, we see it, but it's also very important to have their buy-in and have them, see your vision as well. So that is done properly, and I would think that a constitution being rewritten would include town hall meetings all across this country in every official language, so that everyone gets a say and everyone has an input. And I believe that is the way that we would get unity within this country, is having us all come together and agree that we want this for us, that we want to be in charge. And I think it would be a very simple process. I think we're all very simple-minded on, this is a Christian founded country, it's based on the, principles of Christianity, which are quite simple, like the 10 commandments, you know what I mean? Like, don't kill people, don't take their property, don't do them any harm, and otherwise leave them alone, do unto others as you have others do unto you. It's not that hard. It's not a big concept. It's not,
there's a golden rule. You can live by it.
Exactly. So I think it's important to, kind of put the concept out there for people to give them an idea or a template, but I think it's important to get their input back so that you have a unified agreement between the people, that everybody's, you can't please everybody, but the most people are okay with. And then, we can start to affect that change. But I think it needs to be a group of independents that agree that that's where we need to go, that we're willing to operate independently based on the instruction of their constituents, that can't be whipped by a party and that can't be overridden by a party, and that can start to hold these parties that are in there to a different account, which might cause them to have to pivot and make changes. Not that we are banking on that. I don't care about them and their philosophies. They're done as far as I'm concerned. Their ideas are old and antiquated. They don't work for anyone but them, and it's very clear in this country to most people. So I think we will get change. It might be slow. It might be little bits at a time. I mean, my ultimate goal again.
I have a little bit more time, by the way. I just found out from Viva Fry. I'll be going live later this afternoon. He has to go.
Oh, okay.
He's got to go ready today, so I have a little bit more time because I do want to kind of wrap up with you so I can get to record. But now
Absolutely.
I'm not urgently trying to get off.
Excellent.
Sorry. Let's keep going. I wanted to tell you two things. One, watch my episode with Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson. I did it on Friday. Watch that because we came up with a way to maybe start taking some power back.
Yeah.
In an achievable way. And rooted in that was independence. The second thing I want to offer you, or actually ask you, because I don't think I'm offering you a damn thing. I think what I'm about to say here is to ask you. I would be privileged to assist you in any way, shape, or form to get you on a ballot at any ballot level. I would do whatever I could to get you out there. I'll go rah, rah, rah with you with signs. I absolutely believe people like you have to get involved because not only do you have the passion, but you also have the mission now. You've gone through something that gives you that mission forever. And I think this is why you guys were selected. So whatever it takes, I can assist you and get in on a ballot at any level, school board, all the way to federal. And I'll help you with that one if you would allow me to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, it's definitely not something I'm opposed to. I'm not one of those people to be on a soapbox saying, we need change and I hate this, whatever. But, politics isn't for me. Like, listen, it doesn't matter if it's not for you. Some of the best politicians were just people that were pissed off, that were sick and tired of dealing with the garbage. Like, I mean, you hear Ralph Klein in this province all the time, right? Like he wasn't a politician. That's not what he was. And I'm sure he didn't want to do it necessarily. Do you know what I mean? But what you want to do and what you have to do in order to get if it's affecting your life enough, then have the balls to do something about it. Don't sit around on the internet or in your coffee shops or any place else and moan and complain and go, but that's not for me. Just shut up at that point. And honestly, I personally don't have time for that anymore. And do I want to be a politician? No, but I want change bad enough in this country that if that's the only way that I can do it, then I guess that's the mission. That is what it is.
I feel the exact same way. I had no desire to be sitting here at this point in my life. I just wanted to build my homestead and get on with my family. I don't feel I have a choice.
Absolutely.
I have to do this.
And I'm not willing to accept horseshit anymore and try to, it doesn't matter. You can't
This is Alberta. We know how to deal with
a pile of crap
horseshit
and expect it to be anything more than a pile of crap. And I'm not willing to accept that anymore. We deserve better than that. And this apathetic nature of people out there about, well, at least it's not as bad as. Do you hear yourselves? Like, what was it? I think it was Gord the other day that said you got turds in one hand and shit in the other. You know what I mean? Like, you're picking between them. Like, why are you doing that? Dump the crap out of your hands. Just let it go, right? Like,
there's a lot of things that people don't understand. We are consenting to all of this, by the way. Voluntary consent is how this works.
Yes.
You may say that the government forces you. At the end of the day, the government is made up of us, and we are consenting to this. And that's through ignorance. That's why that's happening, and indoctrination and other things.
Right.
So, Jaclyne, we're going to be doing this a lot. I think there's something special about you. There's a reason why you were chosen, and you and Jerry were chosen. All the men also, they've spoken this way. They believe they were chosen to stand for Canada on this one. They didn't want to be. But now that they are there, they understand what the process might lead to, which is some great things for Canada. Don't ever hesitate to reach out, no matter what time of day it is. And absolutely, I'd be privileged if we could work together in the future in some way to get you on a ballot, because you absolutely need to go forward with these ideas and this passion. This is what Canada has been missing for quite some time. And so I'm very privileged.
We're not missing it. There are other.
Well,
people
we're not utilizing it. We haven't been using it.
Yeah, and it's important to elevate the people that are already out there working and been working really hard. One of the reasons why I'm as educated as I am right now is because of Mark Friesen. I'll be honest.
He's a great guy.
Mark is one of my favorite people to follow because he doesn't get into sure he's emotional about it because he cares, but he just brings you the facts. and he shows you things that you cannot deny in your reality anymore. And he explains things that people are lazy. Like, you can go to the UN website and you can click on sustainable development goals, and you can click down through all the layers where it's warm and fuzzy on the top. And by the time you get drilled down in, you're like, whoa, this is a psychopathic freaking idea. Like, wow, whoa, right? Anybody can do that. But we know people are inherently lazy. They don't want to. So if you don't want to, then you can plug in some earbuds while you're mowing the freaking lawn, or, you know, whatever you're doing, driving along on your daily commute, and you can go listen to Mark's teachings, because he will tell you, he lays out all 17 of these ridiculous goals, and he will drill down into them to bring you the information that's too mundane for you to sit and do yourself, or you're busy taking the kids back and forth to soccer practice or whatever. But you have time to listen to Joe Rogan, or you have time to listen to, you know, whatever. So
This
you
guy?
have time, right? Exactly. Us. You have time to listen to us. I prefer that you go listen to Mark for myself. Go
Mark's
listen
awesome.
to him,
Yep.
please, and get yourself educated, and then come back and listen to this afterwards, because it's more important to hear what Mark's got to say first, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So Mark and I, for a few weeks now, have been working on putting together an Agenda 2030 episode. We're planning for 4 hours. We'll have some people on. I can't release all the names right now. Would you like to join us? Because absolutely, we need a strong female voice, because you are inspiring so many people in this chat right now. There's people saying in this chat right now, they're going to take this video and share it with women, because this is what a strong, I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. This is in my chat. They want to share this with women for strength, to teach them what a strong woman looks like. So would you consider coming on that episode? Because we're going to do something very soon about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Salim is great too. I know, like, Mark and Salim are working closely together, and Salim is bang on. I mean, and so I like Salim's input as an immigrant to Canada who was sold a lie, you know, and now is dealing with the consequences of that, which I think is
That's a nice perspective to understand.
It's sad for people, you know what I mean? Like, and you know, and then also I love his passion to be like, but I'm Canadian now. And I am Canadian, and I want to fight for Canadian values, and I want this to be what I was sold that it was. And so I'm willing to work with, you know, the old stock, you know, the you know, the bad guys, according to the Liberal Party of Canada, the old stock, us old folks. I'm not even old, but I'm old stock Canadian, you know, because I love my country. And I love the
apparently patriot.
beauty.
You're a patriot, but that's a bad thing.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So, you know, he's willing to come in and work and say, like, no, we got to fix this. And I love that. I love that sentiment.
No, he's a grizzly patriot for a reason.
Yes,
because he's a bear on it.
And he's smart. I mean, Salim is an educated man. He's a university professor. I mean, you know what I mean? He brings a very eloquent, you know, very well articulated approach. Some of us are a little, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a rural Canadian girl. I don't give a shit to sound a certain way. I can speak eloquently when I need to, and I'll drop the freaking sailor talk when I don't have another word to use, to be honest with you. That's just who I am. And I don't care to sound like a politician or a university professor, but I also enjoy listening to them, and I respect them. And it's a lot nicer message sometimes than what I have to deliver, because I just say it the way it is. And not everybody will receive my message because I deliver that way. So I appreciate people that can deliver it in a different fashion, that the people that don't resonate with me still get the message, you know?
Sure.
The message is what's important.
We need all types. Yeah, we even need the angry one. We need the angry ones too, for the people that need to release some. We need the calm ones for the people. We need all types, and I think it's working. But Jaclyne, absolutely, we're going to have you back as soon as you want to. We'll have you back for Agenda 2030. We'll have you back for updates. You should have a show. So I will absolutely also, I'm not joking, I'll also assist you if you want to do that. I saw somebody in the chat just say you need to be doing storytime hour in the libraries. Above and beyond that, I do believe you should have an hour a day or a few hours a week. This is necessary because this is how we educate. So that one part where you're talking about educating, this is how we do it. You become the voice, and trust me when I say this, the barrier to you doing it is very low. You already have the hardest part, which is the personality for it and the heart for it. The rest is just technicalities, technology, and timing. And we can certainly assist for that one. If you have that desire, it would be my honor to assist you in getting yourself online like this.
Yeah, I mean, for now,
I
I'm
know your
honestly gonna
focus
say,
where
like,
is it is.
my plate is full, and I'm going to be the first one to say that again. I'll agree. I'm a strong person, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm blessed that I grew up in a
And
fashion
I
that
did say
created
timing. So when you have
this.
the times, we'll make sure that
Yes.
that's part of the
And I
checklist.
need to have the emotional energy to put towards it. I personally don't like to half-ass anything. Okay, I gotta use my whole ass. So right, so
Yeah.
I won't commit to anything like that right now because I honestly
Not for your own
my
show, but you'll commit to
yeah,
coming on when you can.
to come
So when you
on,
can.
absolutely. But my energy right now, I have to preserve what I can. It's not easy for me to maintain my energy levels and get recharged as often as I need to, be able to dedicate the time that I need to my career and everything all at once. It is overwhelming. I know I put on
Yes.
a good front. I have absolutely horrible days where I can't not get out of my own way. It becomes very overwhelming. So understand that you're not always going to see it. You might not hardly ever see it. I'm not, that's not how I run.
Right.
But I am up against it. I'm struggling. I am. And I don't like to admit that. So
Reach out when you need anything. We'll
yeah,
be here for support. We're not going to push you in any direction. We want to
yeah,
be there for anything you need, especially at this stage. This is a chapter. You'll get through this chapter.
of
The
course.
next chapter
Absolutely.
is going to
Yeah,
be a wonderful one. And there's still more chapters after that. Your story won't
of
end for
course.
quite some time.
And I'll lend what I can. I guess what I'm basically just asking for is just be patient with me. I
Yep.
will pop in where I can. I'm learning to say no, which is not easy for me too. I want to help everybody and anybody, and I'm a yes woman, unfortunately, and it's to my detriment. So I'm learning self-care and being able to prioritize things and not make everything a priority as I go. I'm proud of that.
You should
That's
be.
growth. You know what I mean? And so I very much, trust me, I have had a very big passion for this for a long time. The last 18 months of basically being silent, because before that I wasn't silent. Not many people knew me but I definitely was a mouthpiece on my social media. I was constantly blowing whistles of, okay, this is happening, but this is actually the agenda that it's attached to. This is what's going to result actually in the forefront. It looks fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, but it is not.
Right.
So not being able to really speak and be involved in the conversation has not been easy for me, but it was necessary for a period of time, and I respect that period of time. I still have to be careful because what I say can and will be used
Used
against me.
against you. Yep.
Against me. Okay, so if sometimes I guard what I say, it's not because of anything other than I'm cognitive of the fact that I'm not out of the woods yet. And I know that these people would love to destroy me. They just would love to.
Yep.
And I'm Jerry's lifeline, and I cannot let him down. It's not going to happen. So I'm never going to put myself in a position where they can snatch me away so that he can't be supported. So those are the very most important things right now. And we will get through that part, and there will be another chapter. So I absolutely, you can tee me up. I just can't commit to it fully right now. And I know you understand, and I'm sure people here understand. We have a very lovely support system out there of people who are very kind and very compassionate. So I know that people will understand where I'm coming from when I say this. And I've got a big fundraiser that I need to get pulled together here right away.
We'll help with that. We'll help with that.
Yeah. So that has to be, I need to fit this fundraiser planning in, and I mean, get on it. We need the word out ASAP.
I just met somebody yesterday that reached out. Just yesterday, somebody reached out to me wanting to participate in a fundraiser.
Excellent. Well, and I'll tell you what. So why don't I take the opportunity to throw this out here right now? Then, so
please do.
So how we're planning it? So it's a poker rally with bikes. So if you're two wheel enthusiast,
oh yeah, that's right. I'm doing one of the stops.
Yes.
doing one of those
So,
stops,
so
right?
we're planning the routes. We have the routes pretty much planned out. We have a destination of Bicycle, which is kind of the middle ground, but we want to have a group start in Whitecourt, come down through in like the 22 in through Drayton Valley and into
That's
Sundre
where I'll
down
be. So
through.
I'm doing
Yep,
the Drayton Valley stop for
yep,
people that are listening.
perfect. And then we'll come in through Madden and across like Crossfield and into Bicycle. Then the other end, we're going to start in Medicine Hat. Come in through Lethbridge up to Claire's home will be a stop for lunch, and then up through High River, up around the Stony Trail over to there's a little town there called starts with a D. I'll get back to you on that. There's a little community hall there. We're going to hopefully be able to snag the parking lot for a stop, and then again end in Bicycle. So I am going to need some team captains. I'm going to need somebody in Whitecourt, or a couple people in Whitecourt, a couple people in Medicine Hat, and then in the little individual stops in between that can just
You
run
want
some
Tamara
check
for
stops
Medicine
for us
Hat?
with some water, a card, for the poker hand, and that can kind of help me to, because I'm not going to obviously be everywhere at once, to be able to get these things kicked off, get people grouped up and make sure that there's a safe ride. So I am looking for volunteers. Reach out to me ASAP if you're interested in this. If you have, we were thinking about possibly getting a couple of pilot trucks. If you have pilot trucks, you're wanting to jump in with us. This will not be a convoy, no cars involved.
Nope.
This is strictly a poker rally of bikes. But we wouldn't mind having maybe a couple, like a lead truck and a chase truck, just to keep us safe and keep an eye out for things, and keep us good and visible on the highway should we end up with a really good turnout, which we're hoping for. So if you think you have something that you can offer to help us with the organization or the volunteer aspect of a poker rally, please get a hold of me. I'm on Telegram.
And they can reach out to me, and I'll forward.
You can reach out to Jason.
Yep.
Jason, Granny will be very
Granny, yep.
involved in this. She's also
basically anybody that you've seen a part of this. You can reach out, and it will get to.
Exactly, because most of the people that have been part of this are actually going to be helping organize and put this together.
We have a family here.
Yes, absolutely. So September 16th is the day we've decided on. We did that on purpose because, a lot of bikers enjoy the summertime vacation. You're going down south. You want to get to Sturgis. All that's over with by September 16th. And hopefully the good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. There'll be no snow on September 16th. But
not this year. We'll hold it off.
We're getting on the cusp. We're hoping not. So we should
don't
still
give them any ideas. They'll make it snow.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. They don't just put a climate change, So
we're capable of so much all of a sudden.
Right. So we are shooting for that date as a way to make sure the most people can participate. We don't want to, have anybody conflicted with their vacations and all that stuff. So we figure September 16th should be a good date for that. It's going to be $100 registration. That gets you your poker hand for a chance to win prizes. It gets you lunch at both. So if you're coming south up at Claire's home, burgers and Smokies, potato chips, pop. And then it also covers, and on the way down, there'll be a sundry stop at the pizza joint. They're going to do pizza, a couple slices of pizza and some fountain pop for you. Excuse me. It's going to include a t-shirt that will have Operation Rescue with Ride for Freedom, with a little logo on that, and it'll include we're having a big barbecue, roast pig, possibly some brisket in there, all the fixins for the dinner at the end. The people that own the property that we're using have a band. They said they're going to play music for us. Excuse me. There's a campground straight across the street, so you can stay the night if you want to. Excuse me, I'm starting to get hoarse from all my talk in 3 hours. It's time to shut up, Jaclyne. So it's going to be a good time. Excuse me. We want to get it as many bikes as possible. We want to make a big splash and make some noise, get your loud pipes out there, rock a little decibel, and just get together and enjoy our freedom. One thing that I want to encourage people to is that the sacrifice that we're making for the freedoms that we do actually have, exercise them, use them, enjoy them. I've had people reach out to me and say, I feel so guilty because the guys are in jail, whatever. They don't want to hear that.
No.
They want to hear that the sacrifice that they're making is being used. Go enjoy your freedom. The best way you can pay homage to Jerry is to get out there and get some sun on your face, touch grass, go associate with the people that you love, ride your bike, enjoy the things that you can still do. That's the way that you pay homage to them.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
So
Live your life. Jerry wants that for you. Jaclyne wants that for you.
yes,
Enjoy your rights, exercise your rights at times, and also stand up for your rights when needed.
exactly.
Absolutely. And we're going to have to adjust some of these misunderstandings with the government on who owns the rights. It's the people, not the government.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we need that codified so that there is no, we don't have to re-educate again. It's
Yeah.
down on paper, enshrined and codified for the whole world to know.
Yeah.
That, the Canadians are in charge of their governments and the government answers to them. And we don't have that right now. We don't. That's not how it works. That is absolutely the opposite of how it works. And so we want to change that. We want to they told us this is what we want what they told us. We're not asking for pie in the sky. We want what we were told we had. Right?
Okay. But I do have to love you and leave you because I may miss a seat if I don't get going.
Yes, no, get over there. I'm sure that it'll, they'll be probably trying to close the doors today.
No, they did the counting last time, and I do want to get in there because I don't know if we have another legal mind that can grab the information and relay it so quickly. So I want to get in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important too. I mean, we only got these today and tomorrow. I don't know.
Today could be a very big day for all we know.
Yeah. So they definitely need the support over there. And I mean, after this, it's going to be quiet for them until November again. We don't go back to court until November the 1st after this. So, having people there to support them so they can feel the energy and the love in the room, they're going to have to live off of that until November 1st again.
So let's go recharge those batteries for them. Let's fill them up.
Go.
I love you. And you didn't overstand me at all. I got what you're selling and I know what you got here. I totally am inspired by you more than I've interviewed Maxime Bernier, Brandy Hilliard. I've interviewed certain people. Nobody made me feel this way.
Jaclyne, I'm glad that I could have a positive effect. That's all I really want is just to empower people and get them fired up to want to live a good, beautiful life that God wants for you. I want it for you. We all want it for you. We want it for each other. We deserve it. We do. Like, we got to quit beating ourselves into the ground with this propaganda garbage. Canadians are good people, but we're not doing the right things right now. And we have to really self-reflect and quit patting each other on the back for being polite and nice and be willing to get louder and more, have more conviction and, strengthen our resolve about the things that we know are the right things and quit being willing to go along to get along. That's what got us here, and it's going to lead us even further down the path. So I just want to encourage people and know that there's people out here that will support each other. We're not alone. Nobody's asking anyone to stand up and take the brunt of anything. Me personally, I'm saying, come join us. Let's engage in communication and in association and discuss things, have ideas, have debates. I'm not right about everything. I absolutely have all kinds of learning and growth.
I haven't found any in this interview. I haven't found
I want the best people around me to help to elevate me as well and to teach me more, because I have more to learn. And I know I have things to teach as well. And when we all get together, you draw on the people that have been there before you and know better. And then that's how you get better. And then you take that to other people and you bring them up to where you were. And then, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a process where it kind of trickles down, but we have to be willing to bring people up and also take what's coming down as well, so that we can all elevate together. What's the old, I'm terrible. I'm full of platitudes, but all ships benefit from rising tide or whatever, what I mean?
All ships rise with the rising harbor.
Right. So, right. So if we come together, we can raise each other up and we can protect each other as well. And, that's all I want. I just want us to actually be on a path to change and prosperity and good living life for all of us here in this country, not just for select few. Everyone here deserves what this country has to offer us, and has everything. God gave us a very beautiful, abundant, rich country. We have everything we need here. We don't need anything else. We just have to be willing to utilize it and respect it and work together. And we have things to offer other people too. Canada actually could really help other nations.
100%.
I don't mean by sending foreign aid money. You know what I mean?
No, we could be a template for people power.
Exactly. And I think that in order for us, like again, here we go, platitude day. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So
And to extend on that, Jaclyne, I believe Alberta is really the template for Canada, and then Canada becomes a template for the world. So I actually believe Alberta's positioned to go ahead and take this and make it work. And you being in Alberta, me being in Alberta, others, and we really got the bad end of the stick over a lot of this right here, our men and stuff. Alberta might be well positioned, and this might be God's plan all along. So,
and it's the rest of the country too. Like we have so many divisions, and like I don't want to say, don't everybody think that because I live in Alberta that I'm sitting on some high horse.
No,
Alberta
most certainly not.
A beautiful country. There's a beautiful province. I'm not from here. I moved here 13 years ago. I fell in love with it. I love it here. There's the reason why is because it felt very. It was a land of opportunity. People respect each other. It's a land of entrepreneurship, of promoting new ideas, elevating each other, which we do lack that in other parts of the country. It was very different from where I came from, and it was a very big breath of fresh air. So I do think that the culture of Alberta can be looked to as a way to strive to be better. But every province and every group of people all across this country have something to offer. Yes. And we all bring it together as one big bowl of fruit. And we need all the fruits in the bowl. So it's not one, there's no one group or one region that can do it. We all have something to offer, and we all bring things to the table, and we all need that in the collective bowl that we can all draw from, and be willing to stop with this idea that, one province gets more have-nots and haves. No, that's mismanagement through government. That's the only reason why that's happening. But there's things there that are valuable to bring to the table. And the biggest valuable thing of all are the people. So if we get back to respecting ourselves and respecting each other and believing in that we deserve good lives, and we deserve not to struggle. And there's no reason for that here because of what we've been bestowed, which is a beautiful, rich, prosperous, abundant land that has everything that we need. We just need to manage it properly and respect it, and be willing to get along instead of finding every freaking way that we can disagree with each other, because our common thread is all the same. We all just want to live our lives, be happy and prosperous, and not be told what to do. And I mean, I think we can all agree on that. That's pretty simple, right? So
that's beautiful.
Make it simple, stupid.
and another saying that I'll leave you with came from our very own Vanessa, who's in the chat. All of us, we're a stitch in the quilt of freedom. So let's make sure we do our part. We're all stitches in the quilt of freedom. And Vanessa, thank you for sharing that with us. And Vanessa also offered to assist with Red Deer. So she's in Red Deer.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful.
She'd be able to help with that.
I have a group. It's called Operation Rescue. It's kind of
can they email you right now? Or can they send it to Operation Rescue at Proton? That's in our.
So that one, you can. So Granny gets
just
those
to make
emails.
a contact.
Yeah, Granny organizes those emails. We actually have it's called Ride for Freedom. Is going to be our email that we're going to use for all our marketing. So you can e-transfer.
Yeah, I'll add that to that's going to be in the ticker going forward. So all our shows will have that email address.
Wonderful. And then Granny.
So Padge, did you hear that?
Yeah, we can get Granny to route those to me, and then I can kind of take over from there. As I get contact with you, I'll add you into my Telegram group that's kind of our central, where we put everything in to blast things out, talk about what we need, what we're still looking for. It's kind of our fundraising platform that we're using. So as we get you in for a volunteer, we'll add you into there so that we have a one-stop shop for communication to make it easy for everyone. And then we can get organized from there. So we'll definitely, reach out, and we'll get people added in. And I really appreciate, I'm just going to say in advance, thank you so much for people who are going to be willing to help me put this together. I really want it to be a success like the barn was in Olds. And I want it to be, something that we can all look back on and be like, wow, that was so cool. We did this. It was peaceful. It was safe. Everybody had a good time, and maybe they want to make it an annual thing so that we have, we can have something that we can, go forward with, that a way to get back together and enjoy each other's company and discuss things and do it through, and we can always find, if the guys are out, we can find another group to benefit from fundraising. So, we could still continue to carry this forward into the future and utilize our resources to help other people, because there's going to be more, and there already is more people to help out there. So if we made it an annual thing, then we could just make it a way that we're always giving back and helping people that need help.
Love you. The only thing pulling me away from you right now is Jerry, Chris.
Go to Jerry. He needs the people. Please go and be there with them this week. Give as much energy. Send them love. Stare them down with your loving eyes. They need to receive as much as they can. And and I can't be there to do it, so I'm relying on you folks to do it for me. And they deserve it, and they need to be able to carry this for a very long way. This bucket needs to be filled to the brim so it can take them into November. So go fill them up. Thank you for the time, Jason. We'll talk again. Thanks for everyone that's been here. I hope to run into you folks out there as I'm making my travels across the countryside, doing my work, and doing the organization of these fundraisers. And stay strong and free.
Again, second to my wife, you are an amazing person. One of my favorite people. Jaclyne, I love you. I barely know you, but I feel like I know you now. I love you, Jaclyne, and we'll be there for you. Anything you need. You need a paper straw, we'll bring it to you. You need someone to, we'll bring whatever you need.
Don't even get me started. That'll be another. No more paper straws when I become Prime Minister.
You mentioned that
sustainable.
One night.
Anyway, they're not sustainable.
I somehow got a plastic straw. Everybody else had paper straws at that table.
And we're going to be recycling and incinerating garbage with the appropriate filters to create energy. No more of this dumping shit in the ocean. There's ways to do it and make and be.
It never was us. It was other countries that were doing that. Yeah. All right, Jaclyne, I'm going to run. Paula, go ahead and get the car ready. I'll finish up the chat here. I'll take care of the rest of the show. Paula, you go get that car ready. I got to go. Jaclyne, love you so much. And I'm going to go see your man right now.
Wonderful to meet you this week, too, in person. It was great. It's fantastic. I appreciate what you're doing. So thanks very much. Pleasure. And I'll be talking again soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Au revoir. Take care. Bye. Wow. Okay, folks, this is going to be a quick one. All I have to say is I love Jaclyne. I know you love Jaclyne. We're going to get her on a ballot sometime in the future when the next chapter is ready. She's an incredible, inspirational person. I am fully charged for her. But at this moment, I got to go. So I love you all. God bless.